Good morning, gamers! Rise and shine from the ESPN wide world of sports in Walt Disney World, Florida, the home of the 2022 EGF High School Rocket League National Championship. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful day. I'm Grace Remington. 60 Rocket League teams started the season online. 16 advanced here to Florida for the national tournament. We are left with the final four, and at the end of the day, one team will be crowned the national champion. To talk more about the EGF in this event this weekend, I'm happy to be joined by Tyler Schroet, the founder of EGF. Tyler, lots of great action this weekend. How you feeling today?
Tired, but it's so energetic. It's really infectious. You go around, you see the students, the time that they're having, and it's hard not to be just absolutely electric with the environment. And obviously, we're really excited to be here with you, be on set. It's one of those kind of once-in-a-life opportunities, and being it's the first time that we got to actually do this, it's an indescribable feeling.
Yeah, it's always a good kind of tired. Lots of hours, but it's rewarding
Absolutely
at the
worth
end.
it.
So I want to hear about the early stages of you founding EGF. Like most great ideas, the inspiration for this organization came from your college dorm room.
Yeah, I actually started playing in the esports world as a Counter-Strike player when I was 10 years old. Did the player side for a while, and a time where all the leagues that I were playing with no longer exist anymore. And then moved over into working with teams and then with tournaments and things like that. And so by the time I got to college, I'd already been doing it for a while. And then when I got into college, I started working with Res Life and student conduct at Rochester Institute of Technology. And the biggest challenge that they were always trying to solve is student engagement. How do you find the students that don't have the communities or the sense of community that they're looking for? And that's really important because if you feel like you're a part of something, you're more likely to succeed. So a part of it was lobbying my supervisors and everything to make sure that they understood that the impact of gaming was more about community and what that meant and how that can develop opportunities for them to be a part of it. So finally, when they let me start running video game tournaments, as you can imagine, they were pretty popular. It turns out people really like playing video games. So as we started to introduce those, it got bigger. It went to more campuses. We were really focused on that grassroots effort. And then over time, we realized that if we really wanted to make this sustainable and we wanted to build the league that we envisioned when we started it, we had to start working with colleges and ultimately with high school administrators. So over time, we evolved into specializing in working with campus administration, towns, districts, all sorts of different organizations to really help top-down adoption of esports. Because as you can imagine, a lot of people didn't grow up with esports, so this experience is pretty new to them. So it was a long education process about trying to help people understand, when you're playing video games, you're seeing a lot of the same benefits as traditional sports, huge education and career opportunities, and most importantly, it's that sense of community. So when we bring these kids in, you see them as part of these teams. Some of them are inseparable. You saw yesterday, most of those interviews were the triples. So they're really, really about, supporting their teammates and a big part of that. So a lot of ups and downs along the way, but it was a really great experience. And every time we come back to this, I'm always thinking about, what would the 10 or 15-year-old me version want as a start? And then we try to build that, to make sure that we're keeping up to date with what the gamers of today want.
Yeah, you talked about those grassroots efforts. I imagine back in 2015 when you first started these tournaments, were you running them out of the basement of the dorms at your college? And then how did you get it to expand so quickly? Because 7 years later, look, you're hosting national championships.
Yeah, a lot of hard work and a lot of people who are really, really passionate about making it all happen. It was literally out of my dorm room and then my apartment. We still run mostly remote production today, and all of it's about, how do we get students in front of the opportunities. So if they're getting that real experience, they're going to have better career opportunities. So same since day one, basically. It was us looking at what we had available, whether it was, poor college students trying to figure out how to do something for a very low budget. And making sure that experience was still really strong. So obviously we've gone a lot from, my tiny box of a dorm room to here on set. And that experience has been really, really rich and helpful.
Now, most of the high school students competing here today, they've been remote or they haven't had the chance to travel. So this is a big opportunity for them to get this experience in the national spotlight. And some of them, it may go a little even further than that. I mean, some of them could be playing for a college scholarship because there's college administrators, scouts here watching this competition. But for others, it may be just the experience or just for fun. But how important is this event for them?
it's incredibly important. I mean, you walk around on the floor, and we were talking to students. We originally, our first event was going to be in 2020. For obvious reasons, we ended up postponing that. But there are students that were freshmen or sophomores when that was happening, and this is what they've been talking about for the last several years. Like, Disney is the goal. They want to be here. They want to compete. They want to see the people that they've seen the team names and the gamer handles of over that time. So it's a huge importance. And getting down here was, the first big challenge, the first time that a lot of them experiences. So we were really lucky to be able to work with Intel to give them scholarships to get down here, which was a huge thing. We love working with them, of course, because it's actually what made this event possible. And, for the students when they come down here, I love being there when they come in because, they're used to playing hopefully from their computer lab, sometimes just from home. They walk through those doors for the first time. They see the stage. You see their faces just light up. And I'm not going to lie, I had the same when I came in after the day of setup, and I looked at it and I was like, oh my goodness, this is what I had always dreamed of.
That's awesome. Now, I feel like for those outside the esports realm, there's always kind of a misunderstanding about what it actually is. I mean, I'll admit I didn't start following esports until 2020 when traditional sports were canceled. I got on the Twitch streams, I was watching MLB The Show, and I didn't realize until then there is really a sense of community in some of those streams. But not only that, these kids playing are getting the same benefits of traditional sports like communication and teamwork. So can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really comes back to when we start these programs. So a big part of what we do as EGF is going in to work with these schools to help them understand esports from the beginning, and then to not just look at it as, hey, we're going to start a Rocket League team or a Smash team or something like that. It's really understanding that esports from a competitive perspective is really more of a platform. So when you start that team, it's something that people can relate to. I mean, Rocket League is obviously the easiest one to get into. It's car soccer, and so when you understand that, it's like, oh, okay, I get it. I can follow. I can root for a team. And then that kind of opens the door to the rest of the school, because then they can start thinking about, okay, how does this impact the community that maybe is not fully focused on competition? Maybe they want to be managers, media people, otherwise focused on different opportunities that are ultimately going to lead to better careers. And then we're also able to leverage that to talk about wellness. It's really important for us. For example, we do a lot around mental health and wellness for our players. We want to make sure that they're supported. We want to make sure that there's a huge level of diversity in our schools and teams. So there's a lot of focus of how do we work with our women and non-binary players to make sure that they really appreciate the sense of community that's there. And that's why when we talk about going back to even just the Intel, we're really careful about the partners that we work with, because we want to make sure that those values are always aligned. So obviously being here with ESPN Disney, always a lovely opportunity to be able to work with them. But when we got the chance to work with Intel and Alien, where they told us about the donation program, the Intel Score with Intel Core program, where they're going to donate all of these PCs to local schools. Those are all amazing opportunities, and they really align with the values that we're trying to bring. And when we come back to the benefits of the traditional sports for those players, we want to set that example not by just what we do as staff, but who we're working with, and then helps to create that environment where they feel really comfortable making mistakes so they can educate them and helping them learn along the way.
All right, amazing work. Tyler Schroet, founder of EGF, thanks for joining us. Let's go have a day today, shall we?
Looking forward to it.
All right, we're going to head to a break now, but coming out of it, more esports conversation, and we're going to bring our casters back on set too. You're watching the 2022 EGF High School Rocket League National Championship.
Bruiser looks for a shot, bottom right corner. And even with the defender, Skidley Tom able to save it. Sean goes for another Bruiser off the top. This is insanity. A beautiful defense by Lubbock. There, Game for popping it out, but the trouble is when you get it right in front of the box, away.
Josie with a phenomenal clear with the setup into goal. Nobody's there on the follow-up. The plan had been set, and that demolition might open the goal, and it will! Bacon Boy finds the third opportunity to strike it now with only 28 seconds remaining. There is a 1-goal difference. 60 seconds left on the clock. One of these teams needs a breakaway moment. We need a JB King Gamer. We need a JB King Gamer to come in with 61 seconds left on the clock.
Exactly, pace certainly is, and the pace from Ian! You called him an artist, and this field is his easel.
Oh, Picasso, sit down. There's a new man at the top. Look at this flip reset. You guys highlighted the mechanic earlier. No, it's not a great look. It's very easy to take advantage of. Forces rotation down.
Oh my God! Reggie!
He sent him packing! Oh, he was looking the other way! Your Honor, I've witnessed a murder.
Woo! Well, if your cup of coffee didn't get you up this morning, I think that highlight package sure did. I mean, I'll tell you what, if the players are the artists, you guys are the poets. Great calls there. Welcome back into the 2022 EGF High School National Championship. I'm joined with two of our casters, Jay Turbo and Dor. Guys, exciting few days of action. Are you ready for the semis and the grand final today?
Look, we got to kick things off. There's a huge number of things to talk about. These teams have been competing, and we've had a lot of goals for, and we've had more goals for, and we've had more goals for. At some point, these games have got to converge. And honestly, with these four teams, it really does feel like the culmination of it all. It's bound to be good ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was just going through all of the numbers that these teams have put up this weekend, it is absolutely bonkers. Some of the dominance shown by teams like Lake Wales, like Wilson Central that we're going to be seeing today are just phenomenal. The number of goals scored are unlike any I've ever seen in tournament bracket, honestly. And the fact that they're bringing this together at just the high school level is mind-boggling.
All right, so we started with 16 teams this weekend. The top four remain. Let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket now. And guys, it's pretty much what we expected, right? The top four seeds are here. So what are you expecting today?
Yeah, it's wild. For once in esports, everything's going to plan. That's not usually how it goes. Someone's usually flipping the bracket, someone's getting upset, and someone's packing home a lot earlier than they usually want to. But with the Rams, Lake Wales, Summit Hilltoppers, and Wildcats in here, it's everyone who we expected. And honestly, the top three performers that we highlighted coming into the weekend are doing exactly that. You highlighted the goals depth for a lot of these teams, and it really does kind of tell the whole story.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And I mean, we're looking at these teams. The only team seated outside of the top four going into this were the Rams, and they were seated up against the overall number 11. So going in, they're the only one outside of the top four that made it here. Number one, you're looking at the Wildcats. Number two, Lake Wales, and number three, the Hilltoppers. And there's a reason why they've made it through. And I mean, just looking at their performances from yesterday, the Hilltoppers having a 17-0 series, looking at Lake Wales, another 3-0, just complete dominance across the board on how they got there.
All right, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the competition in a minute. But first, let's talk about the state of high school esports in general. You have a lot of kids who maybe wouldn't have the chance otherwise to rep their school jersey, to compete across state lines. But you come to a tournament like this, and what kind of impact does this have on these high school students?
I mean, to me, it gives these players just a major outlet to kind of explore not just themselves, but how they interact with others, right? A lot of time used to interacting online, which is absolutely legitimate for a lot of them, right? You make a lot of your best friends that way, and then being able to meet them like this or in school, especially during COVID, now culminating to this, it's such a wonderful experience for them. And in the future, it becomes a more and more legitimized experience with events like this, with things being put on like this. It's a great time to be in it as well with all the collegiate scouting that's being done. The scene is really just booming. And so for these students, it's not just an opportunity scholastically, but also socially for them, which is an amazing outlet that I think every high school student deserves.
Yeah, exactly. You look at most of the team sports that we think of, football, baseball, soccer, you couldn't have practices during COVID. You were fully online. You couldn't, get on a bus and go meet your friends because everyone had to be inside. But what did these players do? They went to their games. They picked up Rocket League, and for some of them, they'd already been grinding, and this was just an opportunity for them to really get some of the support that they needed, whether it was from their school, from their parents, as this was the only thing they had maybe giving them new friends or helping them build those connections, continue those soft skills of teamwork, communication, everything that's so crucial coming out of high school because, yeah, we all learn math and biology, but it's the friends you make. It's how you learn to talk about things and learn how to communicate that really sets apart those students going into college. And we talk about recruiting. There were multiple schools on stage, on site, and even more watching at home.
And you talk about a tournament like this, it really provides a pipeline to the pros because in esports there are no amateurs. You know, they don't have to worry about the NIL deals, you know, getting in trouble with some higher, you know, authority, right? I mean, they can make money in several different ways. So how beneficial is this type of experience for students who would like a professional career in this?
I think it's huge, especially with some of the younger students, right? These freshmen and sophomores coming in where they can earn scholarship money especially, or look at college teams because a lot of the upper leagues for the given games, whether it's Overwatch, whether it's Rocket League, any of the above, they have some degree of age limitation on them. So being able to collect that prize money in some sort of useful way through scholarship and through collegiate opportunity is actually fantastic for them because while they have all the skills to compete at super high levels, they don't always have the outlets to do exactly that.
Yeah, and we look at sort of those beneficial elements of team sports and working in that team because there's plenty of players who, you know, sit at home and are incredibly mechanically gifted, but there's a different level when it comes to being able to play in a team, being able to work off of your teammates, and so many professional organizations are looking for that. They don't want you to just be able to style on your opponents. They want you to be able to work inside an organization, figure things out. Now that they have stage experience, that's more than some professionals had coming into this year.
Yeah, and to attest to that, right, I've played sports my entire life. I played soccer growing up, in through college. I've competed in a lot of that, and then I went to compete for my collegiate esports. It really is like the same experience. The scrim hours, you're going multiple days a week, between 3 and 5 for a lot of these teams, scrimming every time. VOD reviews in between that, making sure you're checking out your opponents. The work is all the same. It's just the output is just, it looks a little bit different, but when you sit down and you're with your team, and communication is a massive aspect of it, the same as it is with traditional sports, and being able to play alongside your teammates and learn in the same exact way, the practice is the same. It really is jarring the first time you get to do it, how similar it is.
Yeah, it certainly is a balancing act. These are full-time students who have to keep their grades up. They have to maintain a social life and somehow find the hours to practice to maintain this level of success. Thanks, guys. A lot more of the show coming up. When we come back, we are previewing our first semifinal match of the day, the Retro Rams and the Hilltoppers. We'll be right back. You are looking live at the Advent Health Arena as we are 9 minutes away from semifinal number 1 of the 2022 EGF High School Rocket League Championship. And our first matchup of the day gives us a matchup between the top seed and the 4 seed. It's the Palm Beach Lakes Retro Rams against the Lake Wales Highlanders. Guys, what do you like about this one?
I mean, for me, it's really a story about the Rams. See if they can punch up just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. As the Rams were one of those teams that sort of exploded into Season 10, and you can see why they're a triple threat roster with everyone able to show up. And right there, JB King Gamer, one of those difference makers. When the Rams are falling behind, when they need that extra push, he is there every single time to finish the job. And of course, supported by the likes of Murdercaps and Meliodasking. This entire squad has shown up. They didn't lose a single game in regular season, only losing in playoffs. Goes to show just how strong they are when this is their first season together competing here in EGF. And you can see just how excited they are on stage. And it's just such an amazing moment when you get that pop-off moment in front of everyone.
Yeah, their energy on stage is infectious. Meliodasking King is absolutely incredible. We had the camera trained on his eyes, just like dead on over the monitor the whole time. Guy looked lethal. He was seeing red, just nothing but goals. And honestly, that's exactly what we got. They were cool, calm, and collected, but just with that 1 or 2 players that were willing to give them the energy, it's a real perfect balance for esports, right? If your whole team's popping off, you got no one to hold you back, it's like, okay, maybe a bit too much. We're going to get overzealous. But it seems like this team's got the right balance, and they're showing up on LAM. They're punching up against a lot of teams. They beat the seeding. Now they've got to beat it more.
Yeah, that they do. They came in as the overall number 9 seed, but of course it doesn't really reflect things because their seeding in points was based off of just having the spring split. Other teams came in with 2. I'm sure they would have been seeded higher had they had that Season 9 experience. But we're looking across the board. They're a really strong team as the Highlanders. They're going to be a tough opponent.
Yeah, this is where things get hard. Lake Wales is a scary one. Look, we would be remiss if we did not mention one specific player from this team. Ian Cito, we have effectively named the big plays after him. The flip resets, the dribbles, you name it. He brought it out in game number 1 yesterday. Though it was a little quieter later on, there is an opportunity to take down this team. It's one of those teams that's got a lot of star power on it, but if that star power doesn't show up, it does get a little worrying.
Yeah, it can get a little worrying. We saw moments where Cherry Hill, one of the lower seeds who made it into this championship bracket, still able to take goals off of this team who, again, very, very dominant with the likes of those players, and you can see them on stage just realizing how nasty their plays are.
That's the stinky face. It's a little too good on the ball. He looked ridiculous, but the rest of the team as well. Extreme Jaden especially, I was impressed with just being kind of the glue that holds this team together. The rotations back were extremely helpful for enabling those plays and making those big score lines happen.
It's going to be tough to take the top-seeded Highlanders down, but honestly, I think if anyone can do it, it could be JB King and all the clutch moments he had yesterday. All right, we have another matchup to preview coming up after this. It's the Hilltoppers and the Wildcats. More Rocket League action headed your way. Welcome back to the ESPN Wide World of Sports studio, home of the 2022 EGF High School National Championship. I'm Grace Remington, joined by Jay, Turbo, and Dor. And guys, before the matches start, we have one more preview to get through. It's the number 3 Hilltoppers and the number 2 Wildcats.
Look, we got to start out with the Hilltoppers, of course. This is the team that made me put a shoe on my head yesterday. I underestimated them, and I paid the price. Trizon, Risky, and Rudgy looked incredible. Trizon, who is just teleports into the right position. At any given point in time, he's where you least want him to be on the pitch and looks incredible doing it. Also, some good trash talk. I posted that picture of me with a shoe on my head on Twitter, and this guy tweeted me back, said prepare to put it back on. He's coming in with the heat today. I can't wait to see this team. They're really exciting both on stage and in the game, and I want to see more of those pop-offs because this is a team that, while they look fantastic as a team, they need that individual to come up, especially on a day like today with the ability of the other teams coming into the bracket.
Yeah, absolutely. We look at other teams across the bracket, and there might be a bunch of playmakers here. It's Rudgy, and you saw firing away as this team is looking to fire their way into the championships, but they've got to get through the Wildcats first, and this is not going to be an easy team to beat, as they not only hold the record for most goals scored across the weekend at 80, they scored 17 in one game. The Hilltoppers did it in a series. They did it in one game, and with the likes of Sean Bruiser and, of course, Apostrophe, this team is nothing short of incredible. They'll run circles around you, have that pinpoint precision you look for in an elite team, and of course, have the passing to back it all up.
I want to know what's inside Bruiser's cowboy hat. What's he keeping up there? Is it extra brains? Is that why he's better than everybody else? Is it a big computer? Is he a robot? I'm not sure what they're doing down there in Texas, but everything is bigger, and so are the goals. You said dropping 80, and almost a quarter of those in one game at that. This team's bringing the heat, and especially with the likes of Apostrophe, it feels like mechanically they can take on anybody. It's a matter of, are they there with the team play for this one?
Yeah, that is the real question, making sure that that team play is there and that they can go up against the Hilltoppers who are feeling hot.
You know what stands out to me about this matchup between Summit and Wilson Central? They really spread the wealth in terms of goal scoring. A lot of team play there. In comparison, the number 1 versus number 4 seed, they really both just have 2 playmakers, 2 standout players. So I think both of these games might give us some difference there in terms of style, in terms of highlights, what we're going to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stylistic head-to-head on either side. I do think Hilltoppers rely a little bit more on that passing play. Trizon, who I believe has a majority of the goals here for Summit, is usually just like a right place, right time player, right? Always in the box when they need to be, and is able to capitalize on a lot of those plays. But when you look across the board, Risky's able to fire those long balls in that we said were so dangerous. Rudgy has been breaking axles all weekend, maybe putting up the bid for most ridiculous goal of the entire weekend, whereas the Wildcats have, I think, a bit more consistency in there. So while stylistically it's similar on either side of the bracket, I do think there's kind of micro adjustments these teams are going to need to make in order to play against one another.
Yeah, that they are. As I mean, looking at Lake Wales and Palm Beach, they're coming forward, and it's going to be really, really incredible as we see the teams up. And I mean, look at this goal differential, 60 versus 10 across the board. And I mean, that just goes to show how dominant Lake Wales is as a team. And we're going to get into games soon as these teams have to face off.
All right, game number 1 kicking off here of the final day of the EGF High School National Championship. It's Lake Wales up against the Wildcats. Best of 5 series, so it's going to take 3 games to win this thing. Teams are into the long haul. Durkee, though, in for a short goal.
Yeah, very quick, very early on, and this is just what happens sometimes when you have those cuts, is we're seeing moves at aggression by the Rams, but the trouble is when you have that precision on your cuts, it becomes that much more difficult to guard or even attack into as Palm Beach down early.
Ball put out wide now. Jaden to lay it back down. A dangerous position, 1v1 in the goal. It's going to be put back out wide. Safety is yet to be found here for the orange side of the pitch. Jaden applying that pressure so significantly. A double commit into the corner as well. They need to make something of this. But Durkee, again, just good control. The ball out of their hands. Finally 30 seconds into the game. The Rams are able to build something out of the back. And all for not shut down in the midfield.
Yeah, shut down in the midfield, and that's where you're going to want to watch, is the Rams like to build most of their plays either out of the corner, infield passes, or looking for an outlet towards a player like JB King Gamer. Whereas, again, Lake Wales comfortable from all positions, and a shot barely deflected off the crossbar.
Brought back out. Durkee down. Good ball control. This is what we're looking for out of these teams, right? Not only able to hit the touch on the ball, but also able to knock it out wide into safety, into their teammates' hands. They can make dangerous shots come out of nowhere, just like this. Ian Zito over top, tries to play off the backboard. This may be the third time now that we've seen the Retro Rams with nothing in the back line to defend these goals. The simple shot will be lobbed in, but it's an easy save for Ian Zito. He's got plenty of boost to do so. Now trying to create a 2-on-1 isolation. They do, there it is, using the numbers advantage to blow up one car and escort that ball in.
Yeah, and this is what you're going to see a lot of the time. If that second man picks up the ball, that front man heading straight for the goaltender. And this is why Lake Wales's counterattacks are so lethal. Everyone can pick up the ball no matter what position they're in, and they understand demolition set pieces. They understand these infield passing plays, and it means that the Rams are going to have to be ready for every single one of these options from the Highlanders, but they might have a breakaway opportunity. Ian barely saves it.
Ian's been all over the field. Usually we're used to seeing him in the other goal. But having him playing goalkeeper right now is pretty solid. Usually Rocket League, you don't have any kind of defined positions. It's more important that you keep cars rotating around the field at any given point in time. But Ian has been in the back more often than not. And a quick counterattack. Durkee just gets past it, catching me off guard. To be completely honest, no right did he have to take this one down the line. But just catches a great timing on the defense. Finds the shot, 3-0 up.
Yeah, and you can see the Rams just a little too far forward. They're trying to be aggressive, but the trouble is that if you give even just an inch of space, if you're not challenging every single possession that Lake Wales is putting together, they're going to be able to do things like that. Flick it right past your last man, and again, find the back of the net as we've got 3 goals in just 2 minutes.
A spicy start for Lake Wales, but to their credit, Rams have been really solid at adapting pretty much all weekend. Look for more of that out of them as we head to the second half of the game. While they're down in the corner, Ian just trying to maintain that possession, keep the pressure on. A simple cross is almost enough. A goal you don't see happen too often at this level, as the teams are usually good enough to keep that ball from ever even crossing the goal. But here's a more dangerous one. Ball's crossed in. Still, more players lurk outside. Durkee looking for the opportunity, is able to get there quite in time as the ball is cleared. But the boost bars are low for Retro Rams. They've got nothing to work with, and so the pace of play for them is so slow. You can see LWHS are running circles around them. It's been practically a minute since the Rams have touched the ball, and finally they get a decent clear, but it's pinged right back into their territory.
Yeah, and you're seeing just these beautiful offensive rotations out of the Highlanders. They're seeing these corner boosts spawn. They're finding every single mid boost they can, because remember, those canisters, they give you 100. The little pads on the ground are just 12, so if you're picking up pads, you're not able to have those breakout opportunities, and it feels like every time we see a Ram POV, they're at 0 boost.
Oh no, Durkee created so many opportunities, almost gets the redirect on the goal as well. Durkee so far has just been a highlight player in that attacking half, whether it's been demolitions, whether it's been bumps, whether it's been stealing that boost, or finding shots on target. So far, just putting up an incredible performance in game number 1. But Ice King trying to figure out what to do with this ball out of the corner, but unfortunately, again, just pressured out by having too many numbers. An attempted bump nearly causes a goal to go in. They do manage to dodge Ian Zito.
Oh.
I don't think he caught the flip reset.
No,
He
he
did!
did!
Oh no, he got over top of it and makes the goalkeeper look a little silly. This is what it does, being able to redirect the ball last second here. Absolutely gorgeous.
And you're seeing, you know, almost every single Ram go up for that. But when you have that extra flip, when you can just redirect the ball right around any defender who tries to challenge, it means that they have to commit before you do. And when you have these artists on the side of Lake Wales, it is very, very difficult to defend.
It's crazy how close that was. I could have sworn he only got two wheels on the ball, but just barely locked and loaded that second flip in. It's so difficult. Now to apply more pressure. LWHS certainly feeling themselves after a goal like that. And this one, not quite as fancy, but certainly more comfy.
Yeah, certainly comfortable. Lake Wales, very strong lead, 5-0. It'd be hard-pressed for the Rams to try and come back from this one. But what they need to do is take this next minute, take stock of how the Highlanders are playing, and if they can start to read the infield passes, if they can start to figure out the ways that they're using these aggressive rotations to starve boost, it means in game 2, those options won't be available. And again, the Rams might have more offensive potential as JB gets a dangerous ball out of the box.
Yeah, we talked yesterday about having a scary, deep tool bag, like just straight out of Mary Poppins, and being able to pull anything out of it that you need at any given point in time. it feels like Lake Wales right now have taken that bag and just flipped it over and dumped it all out onto the table. It's boost stealing, it's demos, it's pressure on the back line, it's rotations, it's passes.
No.
It is everything to this team, and Ian Cito's just the cherry on top.
I mean, Ian the cherry on top, but the worst part is JB gets caught on this front post rotation and just knocks it in. That own goal's got a sting, but again, keep those mentals strong if you are the Retro Rams, because of course, this is a 5-game series. You have plenty of time, and while the Highlanders are certainly monsters to try and face, this is still, remember, Rocket League, you GG go next. When one goes in, and it's just goal after goal, you can't let that get in your head, because once you get to game 2, it's a 0-0 scoreline.
Anybody who's been on any sports team ever, in any game, any realm, has heard it. 0-0 has got to be the mentality for them heading into game number 2. A goal here would be nice with mentality, but honestly, I'm using the time if I'm them. Just talk shop, talk strategy, talk about what you want to change for game number 2. And there are certainly a few things. Maintaining those boosts in the back is big, and an adaptation that I think we saw them make yesterday about applying more pressure through the midfield to kind of take a little bit off that back line and disallow some of that boost stealing could be huge for them.
Yeah, it certainly could be. But when you bring in that physicality, when you start looking for those demos, as we do get one in, Murda finds that morale boost. And this is big for the Rams. They show that there are chinks in the armor. There's opportunities that they can use. And it's often just a great team play. Now, while this double commit, it was 0 seconds, so that's not a huge deal. But still, everyone getting involved, everyone finding an opportunity to make an impact. And now we're just going to have to see those adjustments come into game 2.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Rocket League if we didn't get a Brazil or 2 in the mix. It was a fun one to start things out, but I certainly think that Rams want to make some significant changes. I'm looking at pressure in the midfield for you. What are the opportunities? What did you see on the sidelines?
Well, I was impressed that Durkee was the one who came out. I was expecting more Ian Cito. Of course, he did show up. Wow, okay. I didn't expect a blowout in game 1. Tell me, what does Palm Beach have to do to adjust?
I think that the biggest thing that they have to do is they weren't ready for those boost stealing tactics. They weren't ready to have so few resources in their back line. So if they can start looking for maybe some aggressive midfield demos on their front post rotations and such, it allows them to create some space. It lets them have a breather, because when you're getting strangled of boost over and over again, it feels like there's nothing that you can do. But if you were proactive, you get those demos out before they get into your back line, it lets you have that breathing room, lets you get some proactive clears, and have the potential for some breakout opportunities.
Yeah, I really think it's like the best metaphor I can think of is, right, you're used to just juggling balls, right? Keeping them up in the air, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. You're tracking all these things at once, and the opposing team just throws a whole handful of them at you, and all of a sudden it becomes really hard. But if you opt in and you're willing to take 1 or 2 of those and hand them up yourself, start tossing them up and get them into the rhythm, all of a sudden it can make that much more manageable. Now going into game number 2, if they can identify the right things to toss up in the air, the right things to start juggling like a demo, it could be huge. A shot is in. Wow. That was a sketchy save from Jaden. Should have been kind of just textbook. Should have been nice and easy for him, but almost.
Yeah, very close, and we saw off that kickoff some attempts at physicality in the midfield, not giving these players space to breathe, because it feels like when Lake Wales gets comfortable, they start to take their time. They start to really look for these flashy plays, because they know that they can do it. They know they have the mechanical ability, but if you start getting in their face, if you start making it so that they have no balls that they feel comfortable taking up, it means they're going to have to adjust their play. They're going to look for these midfield and infield passes, and if you can start to cut those lines off as they adjust, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams can start to score.
They're certainly keeping the ball out of their own net for the time being. They're looking for a pinch off their own player. Now that's a creative play. Elias King, good attempt at a contest. Actually just wins the 50-50 for their team. King Gamer not able to get a good enough chunk of it, though. His ball sent back down the field. This is an opportunity. No, not quite. Batmobile's not able to take that one off the wall to try and take an air dribble into the net. Instead, it's Jaden with a challenge. It's an early flick. This is going to put more power on the ball to try and beat it past that defender. Not able to, though. The speed isn't enough. Ball much more back and forth, though, this game than it was last, and it's creating a lot of dangerous opportunities. You can see LWHS are playing high up off their line.
Yeah, that they are. They're playing high up off the line, but one thing to note is they're keeping players further back. They're not sending all 3 into that offensive third as they were able to last game. The Rams have really been finding these openings, cutting off these lines, and look at these sort of creative back passes. JB able to give some space. Traffic up in the air from Lake Wales. This isn't a level of disorganization we're used to seeing. And now a great start is Melioda with some space. Got the flip.
That flip chooses not to use it. Probably correct from that. You're never really going to get the extra distance on it with that flip. Instead, it's just in the hands of Jaden, who clears it back. Danger shot from Ian. We know he can put these on target. Decides for the backboard and makes them both fly across the goal, all for nothing. This is the power of the backboard. We talked about it yesterday for a really long time. If you're not defending it, it is a free pass for the opposing side. 2 people in goal there. Both of them synced up. Neither of them could reach it.
Yeah, and that's where I think the Rams are going to have to start maybe posting someone up on that backboard. Have some of their rotations cross the back as a quick kickoff goal. That speed from Ian, something we're used to seeing. And it's so brutal when right after a score, the opponents can just race on in and find another.
And after such a good start for the Rams as well, they look fantastic in this game number 2, but just a little short, unfortunately, on the kickoff. It happens to the best of them, but not on the right days, unfortunately. Now 2 goals in deficit for Rams. They got to get 1. Just open up the floodgates. See if they can make a little magic happen. Jaden back out wide. You can see there to receive. Up high. Good challenge. Beats 2 defenders to it. But the rotations, unfortunately, from Rams aren't doing them any justice.
Yeah, not quite tight enough to respond to these moments. And now you're seeing this pressure being applied by the Rams. The response from Lake Wales is, if we're in the same line as one of these defenders, we're going to take him out of the picture because it takes him off the field for 2.5 seconds. And that can be, a lifetime in Rocket League attacks.
Every pixel, every frame matters to these players. They're just going to try and show that. Taking down the line with speed. It's beat off the backboard. This is a tough challenge. Oh, the rotations, though, from LWHS are gorgeous. Able to knock the ball wide, but they're not quite safe yet. There's another shot coming in as it goes off the back wall. Ian doesn't have a favorable 50-50 to challenge that. Instead, has to leave it up high off the back post. This is the first time I've ever seen LWHS start for boost. Ian will pick up one of those big ones, though, out of the corner and re-up themselves to try and make this counterattack happen.
Yeah, they're working to try and find these openings in a great ground pinch, but Meliota losing control. And again, it's having these options to clear the ball while not handing it off to your opponents. That is the delicate balance of Rocket League. Is all 3 Lake Wales members are in this attacking third. It's a dangerous spot to be if this ball can get out of the Rams' half.
Yeah, a slightly poor boost management from LWHS in general, right? 2 out of 3 of those players getting caught with 0 boost kind of forces you to all in to try and defend, because pulling back is just not going to be an option at that point in time. Now, though, everyone's re-upped on boost. Everyone about dead even will take this thing down the line, where JB King Gamer is going to look to receive in the middle. Ball cleared in from the side. The shot's just not good.
Yeah, just wide. There was a contest up top, and I'm pretty sure that shot would have been on goal if there wasn't a challenge from the Highlanders. As now an awkward clear, nearly a dive up for Extreme, but instead cleared away. And still in the danger zone are the Rams. This game has looked a lot better, but still LWHS have been primarily in control.
Time's running thin now for the Retro Rams. A definitively better game number 2 thus far, but it's starting to feel like it won't quite send itself into at least a win. We've seen this often this weekend, though. The Rams, time and time again, find adaptations, and other teams finding adaptations, but just a little bit too little, a little bit too late. With 20 seconds left on the clock, they have to do it in game number 3, but they've made a lot of those adjustments, right? They're getting more physical, they're getting the shots off, but nothing is going in. The number of saves at LWHS, they've painted a brick wall in front of their net.
Yeah, they absolutely have. They've basically raised a wall, said that no Rams goals are going to pass by here, and now as this ball is just going to drop to the ground eventually. It will be LWHS taking that, but it seems the Rams looking for one more goal to finish things off. Save comes in from Extreme, and a comfortable 2-0 series lead for the Highlanders.
I've got to see the stats on this game. The number of saves for Highlanders has got to be ridiculous. Look at their little fan club out there. Gotta shout them out. Everyone coming out to support their favorite players, their family members. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, and that point you bring up about family members, that's one of, I think, the best moments that we've seen across this entire weekend is parents, families. I remember seeing there was an entire squad of, family, all the way down to a little 4-year-old who were wearing team shirts. All of them coming out to support their kids' play at just the top level, and what it means to, parents, because this is the exact same as qualifying for, football national championships or anything like that. And you see all those proud parents waving all those signs and just wanting to see their kid be the best.
Yeah, there's a lot of school spirit, a lot of family pride out there. All right, game 2, a lot closer. What specific adjustments did you guys see from the Rams?
It was exactly what we were talking about. Pressure up through the midfield, being able to stop those passing plays before they began, and stopping your boost from being taken away so that you could actually keep up with the pace of play. You can see once they do manage to get that ball position, the game does look a lot more even, and they were getting shot after shot after shot off. We've got the stats up on the board right about now. I think it was a grand total of like 5 or 6 saves for LWHS, which is way more than I think even they're comfortable with.
Yeah, 5 saves coming out of the Highlanders. Actually, more saves from the Highlanders, almost an equal number of shots from both teams. So that really does go to show that the Rams are making adjustments. They're finding ways in, but this is dangerous. Ian can't quite find the shot. But one thing I also noticed, Melioda has been going for a few more mechanical moments, looking for those flip resets, looking for some double taps. And while some players don't want to bring out those intensely mechanical moves, as we might see a shot on goal, Melioda, again, clearing it away. But sometimes you want to do what you're comfortable with, but right now the Rams know it's no hold bars, find every single inch you can, and take miles away from the Highlanders.
Highlanders fighting against them is a game of inches. Ian lays the ball up. Durkee, ball out, Jaden's in to receive. Only so much though, good clear here by the Retro Rams. They can capitalize, but no, only 2 players remain to try and make their way into the opposing side of the pitch. Instead, they're just going to bring the ball back. Great control there though, taking that demo and pulling the ball back into their control, playing very patiently, not trying to over-aggress is absolutely the right call, but LWHS, they're doing exactly what they did yesterday, those proactive adjustments, right? Bringing out the demos to try and shut down that midfield pressure early.
Yeah, but a lot of uncharacteristic misses in this corner. A lot of disorganization from both teams. And I'm going to say, I think this favors the Rams because the Highlanders love to be organized. But
no, he's got it again! Please, spare them. Their families are watching, man. Ian Cito is just a flip reset god these days. Catches another one, puts it past the goalkeeper. At this point, he makes it look easy.
Yeah, makes him look easy, makes it look like just a simple open net, really, because it feels like it is when you give this player that much space. But the thing is, we haven't been seeing Lake Wales given really any opportunities to go for those kinds of plays, maybe 1 or 2 a game. You're not seeing the same as we did yesterday, where, you know, you're having these artistic moments that these players are just showing up, showing out. They're forced to do it exactly when they have enough space, and only then, because otherwise there will be a counterattack from the Rams.
Rams have an opportunity. The one big thing I'm seeing right now is just LWH's ability to play higher, right? Mechanics are a huge gap in Rocket League. While I think Rams have been able to keep up in pace of the game since game number 2, when it comes to getting that ball high and early, that's why we're able to see so many of those flip reset plays, is because LWHS just has the mechanics to play higher, just like this. And you know, Rams, you want to challenge earlier, but if you can't get up there quickly enough, if you can't fly to the heights that Extreme Jaden can at that pace, you're going to get beat to the ball every time, and it's going to make for a lot more scary shots.
Yeah, no, Extreme having some real pinpoint precision. That is not an easy shot to make.
No.
Those angles are incredibly tight. Understanding that you have to get it wide enough to get past the defense and tight enough to still stay inside that far post. It's not an easy shot to make, and we're seeing again that precision. But as you mentioned, the height, that mechanical ability, that confidence really is what comes into play, because in Rocket League, it is a game about confidence. If you feel you can hit every single shot, they're all going to hit the net. If you're afraid of hitting the posts, well, they're going nowhere near that net.
Oh, be a weird goal. They're okay though. Durkee's able to put this one out wide. Good control for the team. Halfway through the game, 2 goals of difference again. Oh, great Lobo by Durkee. Takes it past all 3 of them. Phenomenal dribbling play. Does Ian Cito step aside? I got this one. 1, 2, 3 players beat. All of them lifeless in the corner. And he trounces over their axles.
Yeah, and in that solid blue Fennec, I thought Durkee was grudgy from the Hilltoppers, just able to slow things down and use that beautiful dribbling mechanics, because we talk about mechanics. It's not just what you can do high in the air. It's what you can do when you've got to get past 3.
Arguably more difficult on the ground.
It really is more difficult on the ground because, you know, it's easy to get a beamer from the top, but it's so difficult to slow yourself down, be able to start that engine, slow it down, and have that complete control as Murda looks to set things up in the midfield, but the Highlanders are just that much faster.
Rams unable to find a good clear here, and the boost has been stolen, I believe, from both corners by the Highlanders, so it's going to be here for a while. This ball's not leaving the tap. They pick up another corner boost. Durkee continues to mount the pressure. high ball. All they're looking to do is just punish this backboard. The second that the boost runs out for Rams is when they start losing. And again, Jaden catches the timing on the corner. I want to note, this isn't luck. This isn't, hey, oh, the boost just happened to come up in the corner for us. This is fully intentional. They know these timers internally in their heads, and they're moving to those positions at the times that they're popping up.
Exactly. And one thing to note is that with every single orange canister really that Lake Wales takes, it means that they can step back every time they run out, and they will have those midfield canisters. Their backline canisters just ready and waiting to continue that attack as a shot on goal, comfortably saved by JB, but the pressure doesn't stop now.
Yeah, they've got to find a way out, which is difficult, right? When you don't have boost, the problem compounds itself. It could end in a goal. One more shot out could do it. It was a big double commit to try and save that last one. Up off the back wall, but no, nothing found. 1 minute left, and this could be Retro Rams tournament life on the line. Ball down line. Jaden with the opportunity. There's got to be a counterattack here for the Rams. DB looking for it. JB King getting it, no finish. Ball down line. Another found good clear by LWHS as the Highlanders try and take this one into a finish. One more will seal the deal. Two players trying to dribble, but the communication just a little bit off. The pressure starting to mount on them, and you can feel it starting to fall, slip through their fingers as the Highlanders just about secure themselves a spot in the grand finals.
That they do. The Highlanders, one of the favorites again going into this tournament from the regular season, showing up in Season 10 just this spring split as one of, if not the best teams in all of EGFH. Oh my goodness, is right now the Rams, they put on a great performance. Also their first season, certainly showing up where if you can go in your first season, be in the top 4 on land in Orlando, that's a feat of its own.
Getting here was quite the task. We saw the bracket all before this. The quarterfinals were intense in a lot of ways, but the group stage just as much so. These teams were playing back and forth. And for Rams, I think they should be more than happy with what they put out today. They should be proud of the performance that they put on in front of their peers, in front of their parents, and for their school. Yeah,
exactly. This is a huge moment for the Rams, and it's going to be just a great moment of recognition as, if I'm not mistaken, this school brought multiple rosters. And again, they're showing up, they're showing out, they're finding these moments, and for your first season to top 4 in such a competitive league, it's incredible. But Lake Wales, this is just another day at the office for them.
It really does look like it. They make it look so easy. Those flip resets look so casual. The dribbles on the ground. You just have to understand, when you're on the ground, the other players have so much more time to react to the moves that you're bringing out at them as well. It is really, really hard to get it past, and it just kind of puts into perspective the lethality that this team has and how unstoppable they are. The second you give them any space with the ball, whether it's in the back line, whether it's from the half, they're dominating, Gracie.
So Palm Beach Lakes, the Rams came in here as maybe a sleeper pick for some people. They just got swept. I mean, are you surprised at all? What did they do wrong, or were they just simply outplayed by, a masterclass team of the Highlanders?
I'm going to say, I think that they were a sleeper team and make it this far. A lot of people were just looking at that raw top 8. They were seeing teams like the Vikings, the Sheehan Titans, these teams that have, storied histories in EGF, and finding that there are these newcomers on the block that just show up, go crazy on LAN. And when you have those types of teams that sort of come out of nowhere, and these storied teams, these storied programs are really struggling to respond, I think that this is still an accomplishment for them. But up against Lake Wales, again, they are just so clean, so tight, and if the Rams were able to take a game off of them, might have been impressed. But this was still the tightest series we saw up against the Highlanders. They did not drop a game this entire weekend, and almost every single game they had a goal differential of 5 or more. So the fact that they had a 2-goal game, a 3-goal game, practically, with that fourth just being in the last couple seconds, it was a very good showing.
Yeah, it really feels like it is just kind of the Highlanders gap in a large number of ways. But like you were talking about, Rams put up a really good showing, not just today, but also for their seeding, coming in and upsetting a lot of people. I talk a lot about there's a team in almost every single bracket. They're not going to win, but they'll ruin somebody else's day, and that's exactly what Rams did. They're my favorite kind of team. We see it all the time in collegiate. UCF seems to almost always be the culprit up there. Look at these players, UCF, your coaching staff. Have a look. If you still like playing coin flip games, if you still like upsetting brackets, these are your guys.
I feel like we have some time to talk here, so I want to give JB King and the Rams some credit, because in games 1, 2, and 4 yesterday, I mean, JB King was the difference maker in all those games. What did you guys see from him today?
For me, it was just the ability to play all throughout the field, right? When we started to see that midfield pressure, it felt like JB King was both defending, attacking, and controlling those mid boosts really, really effectively. And then for this whole team, I'm sure that someone's calling the rotations. I don't know who in the communication. Usually I have one specified person to really be the leader within communications to make sure everything moves perfectly smoothly. And so whoever that is did a fantastic job, especially in game number 2. You highlighted those games specifically, but when we see JB King popping off and having great games, it's usually because the team behind him is also enabling him.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other sort of standout player is that JB was a little more quiet today. A little quieter, not as flashy, not finding those difference-maker goals. But we saw Meliota going for these mid-air challenges, going for these flip resets to try and get all the way around these very, very tough opponents in the Highlanders, sort of pulling out their own bag of tricks against them. And the fact that, if JB's not having a great day, the rest of the team is stepping up, finding those opportunities, finding those mechanics they've been practicing and training with, because this Rams team, they're one that they understand the scale of this event. They understand the impact. They understand what it means, because we got a chance to talk to one of the players yesterday, and they brought up how, it was 10 o'clock in the morning during the summer. They were practicing for 2-3 hours. They'd have another practice at 6, like 6 to 9. So it's basically wake up, you have breakfast, get online and practice. Then maybe you take a breather around lunchtime, and then after that, after dinner, you're in for another practice session, because these guys understand that to be with the best, you've got to practice like the best.
That's an impressive schedule, and they can only take this experience and build from it, right? Get better as they move forward. You guys talk about LWHS, their ability to play higher. I think, Dora, you were the one who called Ian Cito the flip reset god, so can you guys talk about that?
I mean, the guy's mechanics are just through the roof. If you let him have the ball with any space in the air, he's going to punish you for it, which is really difficult, right? The big mechanics gap in Rocket League, initially it's speed. Initially it's being able to keep up with the pace of rotations that the other team is doing. But after that, you start seeing who can get up to the ball quicker. Height is a massive advantage to have in Rocket League, but it costs you those boost canisters that we talk about in the corners that are so important. So having those enables you to get high, but once you have them, getting high quickly is a lot easier said than done. And so those challenges from up on high that we see come in time and time again are really, really, really hard to defend. The flip resets are impressive, but defending them is just as hard, because you're seeing a ball change direction at the last possible second while your car's already flying a complete other direction.
Yeah, and it's not just, a standard takeoff from the ground. These guys are able to ride up the wall and just create a line straight through the air at any point on the field. They can take, just half a tank of boost and get anywhere on the field that they want to be. And the fact that you can just sort of draw these lines in the air where you're intercepting these passes, where you're finding these booming clears and turning them into attacks, it's very, very impressive to see. And when you're talking about playing higher and higher, you're going to maybe start seeing some plays off the ceiling. I'm sure that many of these players can, do ceiling flip resets, not just ball flip resets, and get very, very creative with their approaches.
All right, we're going to hear from the winners in just a bit. We're taking a break, but when we come back, the top-seeded Lake Wells Highlanders moving on to the grand final. We will hear from their team members. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the 2022 EGF High School Rocket League National Championship. Lake Wales, the first team to punch their ticket to the grand final. We heard from the experts. Now we're going to go down to the gaming floor and hear from the winners themselves.
Hey, thank you so much, Grace. I am down here on the floor with Lake Wales, and they are, like you mentioned, the first team to secure that spot in grand finals. Now, Ian, a question for you. Coming into this, do you feel you guys get a little bit of an advantage getting to sit down and analyze completely whoever your next opponent is about to be?
That is exactly what I was just thinking. After this game, I've just been here. After this interview, basically, I'm just going to watch the whole game just to see if we need to change our play style or not.
Absolutely. So tell me, John, is there anything in that last game? I mean, you guys were relatively dominant. That's something we've seen from you all weekend. But was there anything you were thinking like, we've got to fix that up a little bit? There's some cracks here.
I think like our doggo commits will be like need to fix it up because we're going twice. Sometimes me and Durkee, for example, I've seen it, and then I'm always going for demos, and so it's gotta be a little bit of overcommitment, but not so much because we still won the game.
Definitely, absolutely. And Durkee, kind of going in, we talked a little bit about this in the interview yesterday, but do you guys have any kind of like pre-game ritual? Do you get into a mindset, or do you just sit down and you're ready to go?
Well, we just sit down and we're ready to go. We already have the play style in our mind, and we practice it like for over like months already since the school year begins. So yeah, we're already used to it.
Absolutely. So I mean, going into today, are you guys a little bit more nervous, or were you? I guess game one's already over, right? Were you a little more nervous, or is it just same stuff, different day?
I think the nerves just disappear at this point. In the grand finals, I'm not looking up to more nerves. Just play in game ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And same energy from the whole team?
Same energy.
All right, awesome. Well, that's all we've got going on down here. I'll send it back up to the desk. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Septulins. Yeah, Ian's like, okay, been there, done that. Next opponent, I don't care. Let's get out of here, take the trophy. Love the Mickey Mouse wizard hat, though. I think they
really on brand for the whole place.
Right.
In the midst of all of this, they find time to go have a little fun on top of it. You said another day at the office earlier, really just feels like that. A slightly more magical office.
The teams that have fun are typically the teams that win. Okay, we got our Intel core moment of the match coming up after this. You're watching the 2022 EGF High School Rocket League National Championship. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the ESPN Wide World of Sports for the 2022 EGF High School Rocket League National Championship. Thanks for joining us on this glorious day. One team has already punched its ticket to the grand final. That is the top-seeded Lake Wales Highlanders. No surprises. They win in a sweep. Yesterday, they win in a sweep today. And now we have, guys, our Intel core moment of the match.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of style points be handed out by this team with a number of goals, but I feel like we're diluting the flip resets a little bit. They're starting to lose the value. They're too good at the game. So we've had to take things down a little bit lower for this moment, but I think it's just as good.
Yeah, I think so. We're going to get to see, just the raw mechanical skill, whether it's in the air, on the ground, because the thing is, we've seen these flip resets over and over, and teams are starting to expect them. So what do? You bring the ball to the ground, you start adjusting, you start changing your play style, as we're about to see Durkee just break 3 separate axles right in a row.
It's absurd. Durkee had a really just great series to begin with, right? Playing really heavily on the attacking side while Ian Cito was doing a good bit of goaltending. This play down the line was it, though. Beats one. Absolutely dominates the second. It speeds it past the third. A great little bit of mechanics being taken down on the ground. Only wish we've seen match by Rudgy earlier on. That little fake there is phenomenal. Putting yourself up behind the ball, it blocks the view of the opposing player so he doesn't know what you're doing back there. You have the option to flip for it. You have the option to try and move the ball quicker, take it to the side, or like you did, barely touch it at all.
Exactly. Sometimes it's those micro touches that players just are not ready for. If you're expecting, a flick shot over top, someone's going to jump over you. So what do? You just stop in your tracks. You let them sail right past and drive the ball in.
The precision it takes to fake out so many guys on plays like that, how difficult is that?
I kind of highlighted it earlier. From the sky, it's really hard to defend because when you jump up, you give your car momentum, and changing that momentum takes a good bit of doing. It costs a lot of boost, and it takes time. When you're on the ground, you're turning on a dime. You can react so much more quickly on the defending side. So when you have 3 players that can all react that quick, and believe me, Rocket League players have some intense reaction times to take a lot of these challenges. To beat 3 of them out while they have that advantage is really, really tough. So it takes a little bit of the punishing out-of-position players on the opposing side, a little bit of being able to spot that line through them all, and also being able to do things like I mentioned earlier about being behind the ball, disguising that last little flick so that the last player has a difficult time reading where you're going to go.
So when you're trying to defend plays like that, how do you improve your reaction times? Is it just in terms of practice? You just need a lot of practice hours? Do you need experience? Do you need to be practicing against these high-caliber teams?
Sometimes it is that practice and understanding that that's, in their bag of tricks. But a lot of the time, it's not letting them have the space to, stop the ball right in front of you. It's bringing the challenge further up the field where they feel forced to, go for a backboard pass, feel forced to throw it to the corner instead of being able to just break around everybody. Because if you're able to, apply pressure, force these awkward touches, or maybe a clean 50 that goes off to the other side of the field, you can be passing it to your teammates. You can be telling them, hey, have someone on the backboard in case it goes there. Whereas if you have 3 members who are just, half a second behind each time, they're all going to get their axles completely broken.
You guys have both touched on this. The Highlanders' ability to play higher, but it also goes hand in hand with managing your boost. And Jay Turbo, you said this yesterday. Boost conservation separates the good from the great. Can you talk about how the Highlanders kind of manage both those things?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing in Rocket League is momentum, momentum, momentum. Whenever you see those little trails behind the cars, that means they've reached their sort of peak speed. Supersonic is the name in the game. So once they reach that peak speed, no amount of boost will help you go any faster. No amount of flipping forward will let you go any faster. So you're just looking to tap your boost every, second or two. So instead of, using 20 to try and push your way down the field, you're using 5 at a time. And that means you've got that full 50 to get to anywhere on the map if you need to. You have those options. Or if you just need, 12 more boosts to get back, you'll have it in that tank instead of maybe wasting it earlier on because you're trying to boost everywhere instead of being just as precise as possible.
Yeah, being able to choose when to spend your time, right? Do I need to get back quickly or do I have a little bit more time to grab this? It's what enables you not just to manage your own boost, but you can manage the other team's boost, right? Make them chase balls, make them spend their own boost. Go take theirs out of the corner and make it a really difficult fight for them. We talked about how pace is kind of everything here and being able to outmaneuver one another. Well, by managing your own boost properly, it gives you more boost to go get their boost to make sure that they can't follow you around the field.
Exactly. It turns into this sort of little string of dominoes, just going one after the other. And if you pay really close attention, we've been really hearkening on those full 100 boost canisters. But if you look at the lines that these players are taking, there's distinct and visible sort of boost pathing lines where, if you pass over 5 of these 12 caps, that's 50 boost. That gets you up in the air exactly where you need to be. And it's just enough for these players to be that precise. So you don't have to be going for these corners. You don't have to be going for these mid boosts. If you're picking up all of those little pennies, as we like to call them, along the way, it means that you'll have enough change to score a goal.
Is there ever a point during a game where you would want to empty the tank? Is that, if it's time's running out and it's a last-ditch effort in a one-goal game?
Yeah, if you got to play fast, you got to play fast. If you're low on time, press the boost button. It's going to get you there a lot quicker and solve a lot of your problems for you. But that also means it's a full commit. It's like we say whenever you're down a couple of goals. You start committing that third member to the attacking side of the field. It's going to make things a good bit riskier. But if you're playing fast, if you're playing well, you can do it. It's actually something that we saw out of particularly Lake Wales pretty often, right? They're spending a lot of their boost to take away the other side's boost. So if they didn't get that boost, if they weren't able to take it away, they'd be sitting in the opposing half with 0, and they'd be looking really silly. But fortunately for them, they're very good at this game. And so they don't look that way, and that really heavy commitment to boost and spending it in order to make the other team pay is huge for them.
Yeah, and we sort of saw that scenario where you have to be going all the way down to 0 when you're on that defense, when you're not able to pick up all that boost.
I mean, they
we
were
saw the
working with
Rams.
nothing.
Exactly. They were just trying to fly up in front of the net as much as possible and get as much power as possible, because when everyone pushes forward, if you can get one good clear that's out past the midfield, it means that your team can start to push forward. Pick up some of those little pads on the ground. Pick up maybe a canister off the corners. But if you never have a little bit of boost or any momentum to sort of deflect the ball to the other side of the field, you're never going to have that space. And it's going to take, maybe a lucky pinch off of your opponent's speed or something else like that, or maybe a pinch with your teammate if you guys can coordinate that. But it's very difficult to do. And we see these minute-long moments where it's just Lake Wales passing circles around you as they're starving everything that you're worth.
It feels like boost management is kind of an intuitive thing. But for a team like the Highlanders, it's almost second nature to them already. How do you get to that level where, you just can make those decisions so quickly?
It's actually weird. I think this is one of the most communication-intensive parts of the game, is calling out, I'm taking this canister, I'm taking this canister, because your team internally, everyone's got that timer for when it's going to come back up. If you call, I've taken this one, your next teammate who's rotating in, because remember, you're always moving in a circle in Rocket League. You're sending one person forward to attack the ball, another one's going back to get boost. If that player doesn't know which boost canisters are available, which ones aren't, or which one's about to be up, more importantly than that, so that they can snatch away the ones that the opposing team might want to grab, that's hugely important. And we always talked about communication, how important it is. This is exactly it. Boost management is a huge part of communication in Rocket League.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's just sort of realizing that you're part of a team. Everyone needs to have those resources, and you don't want to steal it away from your own teammates if you're stealing it away from the opponents.
Like most things in life, communication is key. All right, we got to take a break because, Dora, you're heading over to the gaming floor. We got to give you time to get your steps in today. Sprint over there. Hope you're in shape. After this, we have another semifinal match, our second of the day. It's the Hilltoppers and the Wildcats. We are previewing that next. Welcome back to the ESPN Wide World of Sports in Walt Disney World, Florida. You are watching our coverage of the 2022 EGF High School Rocket League National Championship. One team has punched its ticket to the final. We now await to see the winner of the second semifinal match of the day. Thank you for joining us. I'm Grace Remington, joined by Jay Turbo. Now Septilence is here with us. You made it. Thank you.
I made it.
Yeah.
I made it. A very quick run and a very warm one, but I'm here.
We need to start timing you guys. I think we should have started that with yesterday's show, seeing who can, put some money down on you guys.
Well, yesterday was easier because it was cold. It was like it had rained. It was nice.
Cold.
Well, I don't want to.
Sorry, cold for. I'm from Ohio. It's always cold.
I was like,
it's
what?
always cold for me. I don't know.
I'm sweating. I don't know how you guys are doing this. All right, so we have another semifinal matchup coming up. It's the 3-seed Hilltoppers and the 2-seed Wildcats. What do you guys like about this one?
I mean, looking at these two teams, it is just sort of a story of dominance. You look at the Wildcats, they came in, most goals scored across the entire weekend. You look at them, one of the best defenses across the entire weekend. As we take a look at the bracket, see who they had to go through. Now, the Wildcats, they had one of the easier matchups yesterday going up against Lubbock Scythe, one of the lower seed teams who made it this far, but the Hilltoppers came out swinging. They had a competitive group stage match up against the Hamilton Blue Devils and absolutely crushed them. 3-0 sweep and not a single goal left by this squad. Their defense
17-0.
17-0, exactly. But the thing is, they might have 17-0 to series, the Wildcats 17-0 to game.
That's a really good point. And Turbo, I'm glad you kind of leaned into that a little bit because if we look at the scores, we look at the bracket, both these teams, one thing in common, that 3-0 entrance. And I'm pretty sure they have 3-0'd almost every series they have played, if not all of them. But this is where, if that story is going to change, it's happening in this game. Both these teams have been nothing short of dominant. They've been nothing short of incredible. And I think either we get a complete one-sided sweep all the way across the board, or this is going to be one of the longest series we've had all weekend.
Yeah, I'm definitely leaning more towards the latter.
I hope
just
so.
Because when I see these two teams interact, you're seeing a lot of team play. You're not seeing a lot of flashiness. You're seeing them just go for consistency. And remember, consistency is key. You want to have those moments that you're trusting your teammates. You're not getting in each other's ears. As we're going to take a peek at the goal differential between these two teams, as you're going to see that both squads are incredibly tight. Look at that, 71 to 62, only separated by 9 goals. And in the grand scheme of things, that is really not that much with how strong these teams have been, because the difference between a 12-0 and a 17-0 in how dominant you are really isn't that big.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you remove, not that they didn't deserve those 17 points, but if you take that 17-0 away from Wilson, that score is even closer. I mean, that game was very dominant in their favor, and they were really having a field day with it. You take, I don't know, let's say 5 or 6 of those away, we were looking at very similar numbers at the end of it. So this is, I truly think, if we're going to get a close series all the way from the start to the very finish, this is it. This is going to be the nail-biter.
Look, you guys have made that promise to me before. At least Dor did.
That's what I'm saying. I never made any promises.
Yeah, okay.
I never made any promises.
So there are no more absolutes here.
I'm changing
I've
the
learned.
dialogue a bit.
Okay.
It's a think now.
Thank you. Don't get my hopes up. All right, we know how dominant the Wildcats have been, but in game 2 of yesterday against Lubbock, they almost looked beatable. What do you guys think is the key to getting past them here?
So I talked about that a lot, and that was something I said right at the end of the series. I mentioned that this team, all of a sudden, we saw cracks in what was the impenetrable armor up to that point, and I think a lot of it was the planned obsolescence from their opponents to intentionally not allow them to be a team, to not play as a team. There were consistent bumps, there were consistent demolitions, and I talk about that every time I'm up here. That's my favorite thing, is those bumps and those demos, because if you can remove that linchpin from the plan, it's going to crumble, right? If you remove the center of the arch, the entire arch is coming down, and I think that the Scythe's perhaps a little bit too late, but they found that out eventually, and they really did give Wilson a run for their money.
Yeah, once you start applying pressure to these players, DPK, he's got that bruiser tag, and sometimes he feels like that bruiser, finding his way into your back line, disrupting your defensive line. Whereas on the other side, you're looking at the Hilltoppers. You've got players like Rudgy, who can just stop on a dime,
Rudgy's a maniac.
absolutely destroy everyone. Trizin, who is in the right place at the right time. And, of course, Risky, as Dor mentioned, can just be that sort of sharpshooter from downfield. If he sees you push too far up, and that's something the Wildcats have really struggled with, in my opinion. They like to get aggressive. They like to get in front of the ball. And the trouble is, when you send too many members forward, players like Risky are just going to beam it right past you into your own net.
And I'll tell you, Risky lives up to the name. It's not a joke. It's not a pun. What he does is risky. He goes for those flashy plays. And they work out for him probably more than any player I've ever seen. I don't know if it's calculated, if that's just their inherent play style, but he always makes it work in the toughest of times. He is the JB King gamer of this roster.
So the Hilltoppers, their stats seem to be distributed pretty evenly. Trizen 5 goals, Reggie 5 goals, Risky 7 goals. Whereas we see with other teams, there might be one player with the star power. Who is, the star to watch on this team?
I think that just their team synergy is the star. It's not a matter of one player standing out above the others. It is a matter of a well-oiled machine coming together, because you don't go from having what I think was a 3-1 series in groups against Hamilton High, where they were close games, to a 17-0 dominating sweep if you do not oil those gears, get them rolling, and have everyone in sync.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I talked about that a lot yesterday. I always say the goods from the greats, right? And getting into the top 4, I think we're seeing the greats. I think we're seeing teams of 3 where every single one of them is ready to play at the highest caliber, to fill any role that they can. We're no longer seeing those teams that might have one very strong player that they can utilize. If you've made it to top 4 in a circumstance like this, every player has to be that strong player you can utilize. It can no longer be, let's make space for X. It has to be, let's work as a team. Let's make space for us.
So, Jay Turbo, you mentioned the Hilltoppers went 3-1 in the group stage, then come out, just dominate with a combined score of 17-0 in the quarterfinals. What do you think they were doing in between those rounds? Were they sitting there in the arena watching the competition, learning as much as they can? Did they go off, have dinner together, go back to the hotel room, and they're, planning together? What's that look like in between rounds?
I mean, what I saw from, coming back from studio, getting onto the floor, these players show up and they absolutely put everything into it. When we walked into the arena this morning, we saw players who got there an hour before us already practicing for this moment right here.
We got here early.
We got here early, exactly. The second the doors opened, they were here. Yesterday, when, the professional staff came in to start building everything up, get everything set up for these players, there were players there before they were.
What time did the doors open? I don't even know.
Yesterday they opened at 7 a.m. and there was a line when the doors opened. Players were waiting outside the building to get in.
Exactly. And that shows, one, the dedication, but also how if something's not working in group stage, if something was hurting you the day before, then you're going to get onto these setups. You're going to see exactly what you need to change. And remember, for a lot of players, this isn't what they're used to. They're not used to being on a stage. They're not used to playing next to their teammates. And again, for many, it's this burst of energy that helps them become alive, become that Lanimal, as we said yesterday. But for others, it takes getting used to. You have to adjust to, those bright lights in your eyes. It's not the exact same lighting you get in your room every day when you're practicing. It's not the exact same, feel of your chair that you get every day, because while those sound like little things, they're very, very relevant. It's the same as superstitions in, other sports, where maybe if you're a golfer, you have that one glove you keep in your back pocket even if you never use it. You have those elements. Maybe
or
that
football, touching the logo on the way out to the field.
Exactly. All of those little rituals, all of those little pieces that sort of make us those top competitors in our comfort zone, you've got to be able to bring it and bring that heat when you show up on LAN. And all of these teams have done so, especially, again, the Hilltoppers. I think that they have been improving across this entire weekend, whereas the Wildcats, every series I see, it seems there's another chink in the armor that's getting exploited.
Absolutely. And Turbo, to kind of jump back to what you were talking about the big difference. When you and I walked in here, I cracked a joke about, wow, this certainly isn't the desk at my house, and this certainly isn't what I'm doing back at home. And I can only imagine that that's how every single one of these players is feeling. To go from a desk in your house, somewhere you're very comfortable, somewhere you play all the time, to a brand new chair, a brand new setup, a brand new 35 stage lights in your face, a cameraman 15 feet away. It's a massive difference, and I think a lot of these players, honestly, have taken it in stride. I think we've seen very few stage chokes, so to speak. I don't think anybody's really panicked under the pressure, and it's impressive.
Yeah, I think people totally underestimate the difference in setups and how that can affect your mindset. But as we see, the teams that win are the ones that can adjust to the in-game factors and the ones that adjust externally as well. All right, more esports talk and semifinal match previews on the way. We're taking a break, but we'll see you right after this. You're watching ESPN coverage of the 2022 EGF High School Rocket League National Championship. Welcome back into the ESPN Wide World of Sports, home of the 2022 EGF High School Rocket League National Championship. We saw one team punch its ticket to the grand final. We are now awaiting the start of match number 3 or number 2, the Hilltoppers and the Wildcats getting queued up here. And guys, as we're looking at the scene here, I see 2 cowboy hats in this frame. Nice little American flag cap there, but we've seen plenty of different outfits today. We had the Mickey Mouse. Oh, there it is. Oh, I like that little band around it. That's really nice looking. Nice black suede. That's what I would be wearing.
I like that they've started putting them on their computers. Because
right.
You can't wear the headset and the hat. So
good point.
DPK would say otherwise.
DPK is going to try his darndest, but just about everybody else is going to take it off. They were putting them on the ground. They started kind of with logos.
Oh, no, you got to show that off.
As the weekend is built, they've slowly kind of climbed to the top of the computers, and now they're like little accessories.
And then what else did we see? We saw the Mickey Mouse magician hat.
Massive light-up hat.
Yeah. Oh, does it light up?
It's got a push-me button. It's a bunch of like rainbow lights.
Oh, you should have asked him to light it up during your interview.
I didn't find out till after.
Okay. All right. Next time. And then what else? The Highlanders have the matching jerseys.
Yeah, all of these teams have jerseys. You know, they're repping out that school swag, finding all of those moments. And I've got to say, you know, just from my own experience being a player in other esports, that when you get that personalized jersey, you've got your name on the back, you've got your school right in front of you. It is a really amazing feeling.
Jerseys make the difference, 110%, because you get to represent an organization, a group that you've been working so hard to kind of show the world, look at what we can do. You get to represent your school. They're giving you that advantage and that opportunity. They trust you and what you're doing enough to be like, hey, they can support us and they can kind of show us off. And I think that's a really big moment, even at the collegiate level. That's a huge moment. So for these kids to get that experience now, I think that really goes a long way.
Yeah, what do we say in sports? It's always cool to have your name on the back of the jersey, but you're always playing for the name on the front of it.
Absolutely.
Okay, I have to ask you guys, since we're seeing all these swagged out players here, what are you guys wearing when you're gaming?
I mean, when I'm competing for my university at times, I've got, you know, my own personalized jersey. It's got J Turbo on the back. I've got my number 3 from my old tag, which just had a 03 at the very end. So sort of paying homage to the older Turbo. But beyond that, a lot of the time it's just making sure I'm comfortable. You know, if that's, you know, sweats and a t-shirt or a hoodie, depending on the weather, that's what it is.
And I haven't been on the desk in a while as a player. I would wear my jersey. I was a coach, an organizer, so 00 because I was never actually in the game. But if I'm at home, a sweatshirt usually because I love it cold. So I'll usually be all nice and warm and just playing to have a good time. And speaking of playing, these players are looking to do that. Looking for a little bit more than just having a good time here at Turbo. This is 2 of the strongest schools. We've got 3 teams left, and both these schools are gunning for an opportunity against Lake Wales in those grand finals.
Yeah, and not just 3 teams, but the top 3 teams coming into this event. Your number 1, 2, and 3 out of the regular season. Every single one only dropping 1 game, except for the Highlanders. They went 8-0 in their inaugural season. Wildcats only lost 1 game in Season 9, and same with the Hilltoppers, both undefeated in 10, and it goes to show how each one of these teams are absolutely insane. But the Hilltoppers only lost this past season, being in playoffs, but now another shot from Apostrophe. He's bringing out some beautiful shots, bringing the power to the Hilltoppers.
He absolutely is. I mean, just immediately out the gate, the Wildcats, the claws are out from the very first second, 32 seconds in, our first goal on the board. And Turbo, I was just about to talk about this, didn't even get the chance. This game goes one of 2 ways. A high-flying, super score game of 10 versus 10, or nobody putting any points on board until the bitter end. And with the Wildcats already finding a point on the board, and things are looking good against the Hilltoppers early in Game 1.
Yeah, and the thing is about that goal, it wasn't anything really all that special.
Right.
And it was just sort of being in the right place at the right time for Apostrophe. And that's so often the role that this player takes. It's about finding those opportunities. But DPK gets in that back line, makes that space, and Sean dimes him up. Apostrophe's there, but a shot on goal. Dark risky. Finds a risky shot right past the defense.
Living up to the name. I said it before the game, and he was here to put the exclamation point at the very end. Dark risky, a weird, I'm going to call that a pinch, but he's kind of the ball in that circumstance. Knocks the ball clean in off the left corner and finds a huge tie-up goal. Only 60 seconds here, Turbo.
Yeah, exactly 60 seconds, and we're 1-1 apiece. So it feels like this game has just been reset with a minute shaved off the clock, as now this is more what I expected from these 2 teams. Very even. Shots on net as that one's just off the post.
Trison gonna keep trying to find that goal early, but the Hilltoppers, they are definitely on the struggle bus just a little bit. Ball control is a combat they are not able to get away from. Is that the setup that they need? No, the Wildcat's not there. Dark Risky going to go 1-to-1 with DPK Bruiser. Two of the most common demolitionists we have seen this weekend, taking one another out for just a moment. 3:30 on the clock, 90 seconds already down the drain, and we are still rocking and rolling at that 1-1. Nobody has had ball control for, I'd say, more than 10 seconds.
No, this does feel like your traditional game one. You take a couple pot shots, you're passing it, just sort of booming it downfield, seeing if you can make an opportunity, feeling out your opponent's play style, seeing what their infield passing lanes look like, seeing will they go for these high balls, or are they just going to try and boom it away? As Sean finding his way back, looking to relieve some pressure. But the thing is, whenever you demo that first man, it's just a signal that number 2 and 3 can step right up, but there's DPK in the back line.
DPK in the back line where he loves to be. Finding that demolition early. Going to not help out the team quite yet, as it was just kind of canceled by an opposing demolition. We've got 250 on, 1-1 on the board, and tries it. Might be able, no, does not even need to help, as Reggie got a single-handedly, four-wheeledly, however you'd like to say it. He's doing it alone, up and off the wall, the air dribble up and over 2 defenders, the demolition to seal the deal, and that puts the Hilltoppers large and in charge over the Wildcats here in game 1.
Yeah, and you can see the contest from the Wildcats coming up off the wall, and the great recognition from Rudgy to take that early flip, get a little bit of extra space, get past one, and the rest of the defense was relying on that front man to be that challenger and slow down this attack, as instead it's just going to be another goal in the back of the net. You can sort of see that hand cam and just how many inputs these players are having, and every single one is incredibly precise and exactly what they need.
I gotta say, I love that hand cam, because watching a game like this, you will never understand the amount of inputs it requires per second for these players to keep the game alive and to make it look as easy as they do. We talked about that a lot yesterday. This game way harder than these players are making it look, and right now, these are some of the best players. These are 2 of the top 3 teams that we have for you here this weekend. 2 minutes left on the clock, and the Hilltoppers don't need to score, but I know darn well they're gonna try their hardest.
Yeah, absolutely. Against a team like the Wildcats, a 1-goal lead really is no comfort. It is just a real tough position to be in, because they can strike out at any moment. You get DPK in the back line. You can have Sean pull out some individual mechanics, or for Apostrophe, finish that ball off. But right here, tries in right place, right time, setting up the team. And for once in this tournament, we've seen the Wildcats in the back foot.
I know how bad the Hilltoppers want this. This is a team I've known for a long time, and a team I've had an opportunity to talk to a lot this weekend, because I always know where to find them at those setups practicing. And they have told me time and time again, we are coming, we are not pulling any punches. We are going to take down anybody we have to for that shot in grand finals.
Yeah, and you've got to think, if the Hilltoppers were to make it and go against Lake Wales, it would be a rematch of their conference finals from this past playoffs, where both teams qualified. The only loss given to the Hilltoppers this season was in a 3-2 best-of-5 from Lake Wales.
A 3-2 best-of-5! That's literally as far as you can go!
Exactly, and the Highlanders have gotten better and better as this offseason progressed, and it's showing up against the Wildcats, who are struggling and aren't able to get that team play they're so known for. But a nice small touch might give some space as the Hilltoppers are out of position.
Hilltoppers out of position here, as Rudgy's going to be able to turn it around, down and through into Bruiser, who might be able to snatch that ball control. The setup is there, but Risky, a day late and a dollar short. 35 seconds and counting. Is that goal going to bounce its way in, up and through, off the post? Now ball control in favor of the Wildcats. Ooh, that looks like it could be an open goal, but Risky is there to get it right back toward the back third of the Wildcats.
Yeah, I was really scared, honestly, in that moment, because it looked like there was an inter-team demo. Risky and Rudgy in a rough spot, but now a shot on goal. Rudgy there just in time. But again, if you get caught with your teammates, that's why rotations are so important. You bump each other, that's 2 people out of the play.
2 people out of the play, and with only 7 seconds left, we need a miracle play. We need a JB King Gamer moment from these teams right now. We need somebody to come in and score at that 0-second timer. But as it comes down to the ground, that is the Hilltoppers taking a game over the Wildcats. Turbo, that is something I think very few, if any, teams have been able to do this weekend.
No one has
That's what
taken
I
a game
thought. Okay,
off of
great.
the Wildcats this weekend. And when you look at their season, they have lost exactly 1 set across the last 2 seasons, and it wasn't even a true loss. It was a forfeit. They couldn't have all their players for that match, and every single time they have been all together, they have won. And this is the first time that they have really been tested, and on stage no less. So you have to wonder if that mental game is going to, play a part where you have this confidence. You have all of these expectations that have sort of been placed on you as one of, if not the best team coming into this tournament, one of the best teams for the last 2 years, ever since 2020. We heard Apostrophe. They've been gunning for this spot. And now you lose your first game in semis. How does that impact the mind? It's got to be something, but I need to see this team sharpen up, cut off some of these passing plays and take it to the Hilltoppers.
Yeah, I was going to ask, this is the first time we've seen the Wildcats playing from behind in this tournament. Why do you think that is? I mean, is it simply the nerves of such a big moment? Is there anything mechanically they can fix? What do you guys think?
I think this is definitely the hardest mechanical game they've played up to this point, because we've gotten to they're only playing people that have taken down just as many teams as they have. We're getting to the point where these are the teams at their level. And we're going to have to see, can they respond? I believe, knowing the Wildcats, I think that loss is going to light a fire underneath them like we have never seen before. I highly suspect this team to come swinging out the gates just like that. Sean, with the exclamation on my sentence. 7 seconds off the clock. The Wildcats have had enough. That first point already on the board.
Exactly. It seemed like for game one, they were like, okay, we played it slow, we played it a little easy, but we're starting to figure you out.
We tried something new.
Exactly. And now they are just taking the pressure forward. They are finding these opening moments, and that early kickoff goal means that the pressure is now on the Hilltoppers to respond, as now it feels like the Wildcats are back where they're comfortable in the lead.
All right, 20 seconds off the clock. This could be the lineup for a second goal. Oh, but the whip! Talk about unfortunate. Falls a little bit off to the right side, and that goal is not completed for the Wildcats. They're still up only by a single point, and as we talked about last game, a single point at this caliber, that's basically zero. You need probably 3 or 4 points to really let your guard down even a little bit, but as long as that ball is live, your guard is never going down. DPK Bruiser becoming the goalie of a lifetime, finding that defensive block and keeping it at a 1-0 scoreline in favor of the Wildcats. Here comes a second attempt, though, from the Hilltoppers, and they are gonna find it. Risky takes no risk on that one. That was just a safe opening goal.
And I'm not sure what's going on in the Wildcats comms, because we saw an open goal opportunity for Apostrophe. Missed that. Haven't seen him miss one of those all weekend. We looked at that moment, a double commit for the save. You rarely ever see teams of this caliber sending 2 men up, because they know that one can hit it, the other is ready for the rebound. And in this case, both went up, there was no one to respond, and it's an easy shot for the Hilltoppers as we're all even once again.
I don't want to be the one to say it, Turbo, but the nerves might be getting to him a little bit. This is hard. This is the first game they've really had to fight like this. And I'm wholeheartedly in the belief the Wildcats can turn this one around. They just need to focus up, find some demolitions, and get Rudgy away from that goal. He's finding the shots, he's finding the demos, he's finding the setups. He may just be the key for the Wildcats to turn this around.
Yeah, I completely agree that isolating Rudgy, sort of the solo player when you're looking at this Hilltoppers team, because Tryzen and Risky, they like to play for the team or right around these team plays, but Rudgy is that one who, if given a little space, will go for something flashy, go for something unexpected, and we've seen it already in this series. We've seen it over the weekend, and now Sean gets past one, but a good stop.
Good stop, passes it right back down onto Bruiser, though. Huge turnaround. Speaking of Rudgy, there he is once again. Knocks ball control in favor of the Hilltoppers. The setup is huge for the Wildcats, but the disruptor comes through at the last possible moment. For Apostrophe was beyond ready for that goal. It looks like we're going to see a rush down toward that right side. A demolition coming out from Sean onto Tryzen. Second minute just now ticking off the clock. We are at that 1-1 scoreline. Is it a 2-1? The secondary attempt fails. Where's the tertiary? It is nowhere to be seen. Knocked into the corner. That dead man's ball in favor of the Hilltoppers. The turnaround immediately snatched back. SHS, they are looking for that second goal. They need to take the lead once again.
Yeah, they really want to find that lead, and if they can take a 2-0 lead in this series, it would be absolutely brutal for the Wildcats to have not lost a game this series, and then 2 in a row in the semifinals when most people are expecting them to move forward. But we have to think Lake Wales didn't even think about the Wildcats when they were looking at who they were afraid of. It was just the Hilltoppers, and we're seeing why. Tryzen with a great save, and it's an outlet pass to Rudgy. Can't quite get the speed.
Gonna get pinched into the corner once again. It looks like a bounce toward that center field off to the left side. If the opportunity arises, I see the Wildcats giving us a very textbook, just demolition-free goal situation, and they can put 1 point away. Should be relatively easy, but right now, I mean, Turbo, throw your textbooks out the window, right? Because this is not a traditional game of Rocket League. For Apostrophe for the second time, I don't even know if I should call that a whiff. That seemed intentional.
No, that didn't feel like a fake. It seemed like you had a bad takeoff, and that happens sometimes, but twice in one game. Gonna say for Apostrophe, he's a great player, normally doesn't make these mistakes, and it might just be needing to slow down, cool off, and realize that, well, yes, it's gonna be a tough game. Yes, there's a lot of pressure. This team has been here before. They've won championships in 3-2 fashion when necessary, and we're going to see what they can do from here on out as another shot just off the corner.
90 seconds on the clock, and I really hope we get an opportunity to see these hand cam once again, because I want everyone to see, in a 1-1 circumstance like this, how fast these players are truly moving. 80 seconds remain, and it's going to be very difficult for these teams to come through and find it. Sean, DPK might be able to find something, but the saves from the Hilltoppers right now, their backs are against the wall. Are they fight or are they flight? It looks like they are trying their darndest to fight tooth and nail to get the advantage over the Wildcats once again.
That they are these Hilltoppers trying to shove their horns into the Wildcats, show that the prey has become predator, as now they just need one more goal to find that moment. It's a great opening demo.
Oh, this is a slow ball. This is a slow roll down toward the goal. Risky gets a little bit stuck in the no man's land. The bump coming through from Rudgy onto Bruiser disrupts the Wildcats. Once again, we are down double digits on the clock here, folks. And it's 42 seconds in overtime. Very close in our future. If somebody does not do something, we need the star-studded moment. We need somebody to be the hero and give their team the second game. And Rudgy is trying to make it happen. Tries to make it happen, but Apostrophe on the defense. Offense a little rough, but that defense just as good as ever. That's an open goal, but it's a miss.
And DPK once again filling that bruiser role, playing for those demos and trying to get as physical as possible, but that precision just hasn't quite been there. Risky touch off the black.
No!
And the corner is safe. I don't know how the crossbar is there, and these players are just pixels off as 5 seconds remain before our first overtime of the playoffs.
Oh my goodness, Turbo, I said it and I meant it. Unless Trizon gives us a miracle, we are going to overtime. Game 2, Wildcats versus Hilltoppers. This is what I wanted to see.
This is what I think everyone wanted to see, and it was a big bump on that goal line. And Sean now with some space, looks for the double, lines himself up, but Trizon again, right place, right time.
Right place, right time. Trizon just needs to change his name to that, because that's always what we are calling him. Now, folks, for those who may be unfamiliar with the overtime in Rocket League, that number will go as high as it needs to, but somebody needs to score to end it. And my goodness, I thought we were just going to get it only 21 seconds in, but it's going to be a great defensive block from the Hilltoppers once again. They're stuck on a hard back foot right now. The demolition from Bruiser certainly not helping that out. Trizon going to miss the ball. Sean going for a classic down to the left post. It's knocked away into the corner. The pressure coming on. There's the setup. Where's the follow through? Rossi goes high. He smacks it low, and it's going to be knocked away by Rudgy.
And the thing is with overtime is that you don't have, that kickoff safety net. There's not going to be any more kickoffs where you can maybe find a last-second opportunity to tie things up. It is golden goal. It is the first one to find the back of the net will get it. But it doesn't matter how long this timer goes on. I believe the record for the longest overtime in competitive Rocket League history is 14 minutes. I doubt we're getting to that today, but you might see these teams just keep passing around each other and finding these lines. As Bruiser, a great shot, but Rudgy just in time as Trizon doing his best to control this back third and give the Hilltoppers some space, but a big miss!
That's so open, and there it is! DPK Bruiser puts that away. You know what that guarantees, Turbo? That guarantees a Game 4. We are going, at the very least, to a Game 4. My fingers are unbelievably crossed that this leads into a Game 5 as well. What a performance, and what a turnaround from the Wildcats.
Yeah, what a turnaround, as these two teams neck and neck, evenly matched, and you can see them on stage, just sort of being like, oof, that was an intense one. Let's stay calm, cool, and collected. Make sure that we're, ready to go. Our fingers are plenty warmed up. Got to crack those knuckles if you've got any pressure in there, because, again, it is about having those tiny moments of precision, and what lost that goal was just one single mistake, a missed touch off the corner, and it opened the way for DPK.
So many shots went off the crossbars there at the end. I feel like the Rocket League gods just needed an overtime. Thank goodness they gifted it to us. But some of these low-scoring games, those always turn out to be the best ones. How good was the defense in this one?
I think the defense is where the Wildcats shined for a majority of it. We talked about Apostrophe a lot, and I don't want to hone in on him. I still think he's doing a phenomenal job, but the offense was not to traditional caliber for what we know from the player. The defense, however, kid was a maniac. Had to play into a new role. It was a great example of me talking about how they have to swap, how they need to be playing every role, and I think he filled that defensive role in a really impressive way that without him, they would have gotten smoked there in Game 2.
Yeah, exactly. They have that capacity to fill into these different roles. And if we're looking at these two teams, 5 saves from the Wildcats, 6 from the Hilltoppers, the only difference being just that last one. As, again, we were seeing the Hilltoppers find these opportunities to cut into these shots before they were fired, free jumping. We saw it in both teams, and the fact of the matter is, if you can read an opponent's shot before they even fire it, that is a skill all in its own. as DPK on the back line tries it. Not high enough to try and defend this one out. We're seeing just a flurry of demos back and forth. These teams are getting physical because they know that if you give space, stuff like this is going to happen. Bruiser with a great save, and Rudgy can't find the shot.
Rudgy does not find the shot. Passes it into Dark Risky, who's immediately forced onto the defensive foot. Demolition comes through onto Risky. That is Apostrophe's 4th demolition in 26 seconds, or 36, I don't know, guys. I don't know math. The point is, it was not very long. 30 seconds off the clock now. We are coming through with the Wildcats, large and in charge. For Apostrophe, he is all over the field. A rough game back in game 2, and he said, I am back, and I am unbelievably ready. I talked about that fire being lit, and I believe Apostrophe is the one to show us just how bright this team is about to burn.
Yeah, I completely agree. Apostrophe sort of been one of those difference makers, is nearly a slow slotted shot at a DPK, but of course, the Hilltoppers ready and waiting for that moment is Risky with a great challenge forward and nearly finding an option as tries to the backboard. No one finds it, but there's no follow-up. I think that there was maybe a little too much respect to give into Sean, but I mean, with a player of that caliber, you have to give it as another shot wide.
Minute 10 off the clock. We are rocking and rolling at those goose eggs right now. Nobody has really been able to get close enough to the goal. We've seen a couple of long distance shots, but DPK, he's going to go through. He's not just going to get close to the goal. He's going to walk up. He's going to high-five the goal on his way in, because that was the Hilltoppers leaving it not quite wide open, but not nearly as defended as it needs to be in a situation like this.
Yeah, and you see that little backflip he did. That's what we in the Rocket League community like to call a musty flick, because the player who originated that move, his YouTube name is a Musty Cow, and quite frankly, it is one of the most impressive moves that you can just find and pull out in the middle of a series, and we saw it used to great effect by DPK as the pressure doesn't stop after that first goal.
Sean and Apostrophe, a little bit of a miscommunication. They're going to bump into one another. It looks like they might actually lose ball control for it. A lot of boost. Luckily enough, Apostrophe still gets into the right position. Gretchen with the setup, but nobody with the follow-through. Goes up and over the goal. Smacks directly down into it, but Sean, the defense of a lifetime. Sean, I think, our best example of a well-rounded player so far, even more so than Apostrophe. Kid is on the offense, on the defense, and anywhere in between, but you cannot block them all. And Rudgy is here to show us that we are tied back up. Game score 1-1. Point score 1-1.
And what makes this even more impressive is that he built this shot that regardless of if Sean was able to contest that, it was going in the net. And we saw that blue trail in the back of the ball. That's signifying who the last team to touch the ball was. And that means that that deflection was perfect as Rudgy looks to sink another, but Apostrophe is ready and waiting.
2:55 and counting. 1-1, basically a 0-0, because at the end of the day, somebody's got to win, and often we see that is only by a single point. Sean trying to find that single point, but instead going to get blocked out by Dark Risky. A weird flick into the far left corner. Dark Risky with the follow-through from Apostrophe. Great juggle and pinch off the corner and around the defense. A lot of back and forth. It feels like the Wildcats are just kind of juggling the ball right now.
Yeah, it certainly does feel that way. I think that they're trying to, take a page out of the Highlanders playbook. Look for ways to starve this team of goose. Just like that, a quick transition, and Sean is able to find it. And that's what you're going to see in some of these best teams, is there's a clear coming out, and while, yes, there's a player downfield, there's that recognition. I've got a pass available. They're not out of position. They're ready for a shot.
Was that intentional? Was that happenstance?
No, that was a pass from Apostrophe. He sees Sean, he finds the option, and Sean's like, I got this. I'm going to slot that right in that top left corner like I always do, as the Wildcats are 2-1 up.
Wildcats 2-1 up, 2:15 on the board, and the Wildcats, they are looking mighty good here in game 3. They lost one, that fire was lit, and they are looking to lose no more. Now, Turbo, this is going to be tough either way, because whoever wins this, you got to go on Lake Wales, and that's a whole new beast. You got to defeat one beast just to walk through a door and walk right into another. So this is going to be a tough day for one of these teams.
Yeah, and the thing is, as we heard from Ian and the rest of Lake Wales, they're watching this game.
They're studying right now
exactly how these teams play. They're studying, is Bruiser going to be that person in the back line looking for demos? Is Sean going to be that reactive front man? Or instead, if we're looking at the Hilltoppers, is Rudgy just going to try and style on Ian or any of these other players? But again, you got to focus on the match at hand first, because you can't fight Lake Wales if you can't beat who's in front of you.
Absolutely. Got to get through who's in front of you to see who's behind them. And right now, Trizon looking to score things, tie it back up once again. 80 seconds on the clock. 2-1 still in favor of the Wildcats, but it's going to be even worse as Sean finds a shot, not quite from downtown, but perhaps from a suburb nearby. Going to go into the goal in 80 seconds. They're up 3-1. Things are looking good for the Wildcats here in Game 3.
Things are looking good, and you can see that they're figuring out the Hilltoppers' play style.
Yeah.
They're finding these moments that maybe the Hilltoppers push a little too far forward for boost. Maybe they rely too much on that last man to set up a counterattack. And when you get a little too comfortable, that's right where the Wildcats strike. They'll take out their claws, they'll sink right in to those Hilltoppers and take every single goal that they can.
I think that's really part of the problem right now. Back in Game 2, I made a comment, throw those textbooks out the window, right? Because none of those strategized plans are going to work. We need to be reactive. We need to be making up things on the fly and just playing our hearts out. Now, the Hilltoppers are playing their hearts out, but I'm not sure how reactive they're being. I feel like we're still trying to see those scripted plays, the things we'd expect, and the Wildcats know them. The Wildcats might have written them. So I think it's really becoming hard for the Hilltoppers to find these traditional goals.
Oh, and a really tight shot that was nearly going to bounce off the corner, as some great angles being tried by Rudgy, but again, just very, very difficult to work out, as now with 30 seconds on the clock, 15 seconds per goal, the Hilltoppers will be hard-pressed to find this one.
15 seconds per goal. I mean, Turbo, we're already down to 12. 12 seconds per goal is going to be tough. The Hilltoppers would need nothing short of a miracle. And that is not exactly a miracle. That might be quite the opposite. DBK Bruiser finding that fourth goal, and that's got to seal the deal here against the Hilltoppers here in Game 3. The Wildcats finding themselves up 2-1 on the semi-finals set. And this is going to be the Hilltoppers fighting for their lives.
Yeah, the Wildcats putting themselves up to series point, match point, semi-final point, and you have to just sort of accentuate that, you know, if this was a Wildcats Highlanders final, I think that's what everyone wrote down in their brackets looking at this event, looking at the seeding, looking at the results. But the thing is, the Hilltoppers are strong. They're one of the only teams to show that the Highlanders can bleed in the last regional championship, as now the Wildcats go up. And this time, well, yes, it's a 4-1 scoreline, it certainly didn't feel like it.
Oh, not at all. I mean, that was just the Hilltoppers playing their everything they knew how to play, right? Playing the short, sweet, and to the point. But unfortunately, I just needed more spontaneity. I think that's what I was looking for. A little less predictable, a little less practiced. We needed to see this team come through with random demolitions, random flicks toward goal, or at least more consistent clears. It felt like they wanted to hold the ball close a lot. You've just got to launch that thing sometimes.
Sometimes you do, but these players can just pick it up and slot it wherever they want. You know, if you give them that space, if you give that booming clear, it's very, very difficult. But still, my standout moment in that game was Sean being ready for the passes coming forward from Propostrophe. And the thing is, I know for a fact in those comms, Propostrophe goes with challenge. He's like, Sean, you ready? And he says, oh, yes, I am.
Love that teamwork there. J-Turb, you used a term I think I need to hear more about, a musty flip.
Yeah, so it's this really weird move. Basically, it's where if you can angle your car directly 90 degrees parallel to the ground, you change the axis of rotation. If you input a backflip, it sends you forward. So it's actually a really interesting way to find a ton of power in midair if you need to change directions or if you need to get a slight micro adjustment or just boom it down into the goal. And we saw 2 out of Bruiser that game. And it's not easy to do midfield. You know, you have to be putting in, 6 different inputs to make it work.
It's not easy to do in general.
Yeah,
it's a hard thing to do.
It's very, 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 very difficult.
Septilence, you mentioned you wanted a hand cam to see how fast their fingers are moving.
Absolutely.
What's that look like?
I think watching the game versus watching what the players are doing, it feels like 2 completely different things. It really does. It's the players coming in and putting in, I mean, if I had to guess, 20, 30 inputs in just a couple of seconds because it's constant, the rotations, the jumps, the boost, and it's constantly keeping an eye on the ball. That's incredible. And I feel like people will never really grasp that unless they're watching in such a high-stakes, high-caliber situation like this, just how fast those players really are.
So I was listening to a podcast about this. You can't come into these tournaments with cold hands.
Oh, absolutely not.
I think the closest I've ever come to this is piano lessons. My teacher told me, you have to be agile to reach all the keys. Is there any type of exercise? Are they holding, hand warmers?
Hand warmers, very common. An event that I actually went to, the air conditioner was broke, stuck on broke. So it was super, super cold in the building, and then they had to go out and buy hand warmers because all the players could not perform to their highest level. Cold hands, I mean, they really do make a difference.
Yeah, it's a real deal. I mean, imagine being like a football player, a baseball player, and you're out there and it's 30 degrees or it starts snowing, and you can't get that grip that you're used to. You can't feel that comfort. And, for them, it's 1 or 2 inputs. For these guys, it's every single part of the game. So those hand warmers become, infinitely more relevant and such an important part of their game. You got to stay warm. You got to make sure everything's ready. And, I mean, that's why they were here at 7 a.m., practicing up, warming up, making sure that they were ready on these computers. They were rested, left the arena, and probably just went straight to sleep, and then got here as early as possible to make sure that they're in tip-top shape.
Yeah, I guess it's like any muscle. You got to be warmed up, loose, ready to go. you guys talked about the start of Game 3, a physical flurry of demos back and forth.
Yeah.
It seems like this entire series so far is just, I mean, there's a lot more action than the score is showing. How physical is this? Much more physical do you expect it to get?
I don't remember the last time I saw a player get 4 demolitions in 30 seconds. So that is really insane. And it was even less than that. I just don't know the exact number, but it was like 20-something seconds. So for Apostrophe to be doing that, he is going out of his way to do that. And I think it is 100% intentional because we talked about the importance of how if you get rid of one, the other 2 are ready to fill. Let's get rid of all 3. Let's eliminate the entirety of the team. Let's open up the field for us for 4 to 5 seconds and see what we can do with it. And I think it also is just a bit of a mental boom to your opponents. Like, they're hardly getting to play the game. They're watching that little respawn timer. They respawn. Here's Apostrophe again. See you in 5 more seconds.
Yeah, and it also goes to, these players, they're understanding they need to create space. We need to make sure the Hilltoppers aren't cutting us off. And the thing is, the great part about Apostrophe's demos is he was staying in the teamwork. He was cutting people off, receiving passes while still demoing. And that is not an easy thing to do. It is very, very difficult, and only the best can do it.
So we started off, the Wildcats looked like they were playing from behind, but it looks like they found their stride now as we head into Game 4.
Can't remember the last time I saw the Wildcats lose a game, and I think, like I said, I think that unlocked a whole new beast, a whole new animal, if you will. They're trying to show us that right here, right now. They are one game, a hypothetical 5 minutes, a hypothetical 1 goal away from being able to call themselves grand finalists here this weekend. But the Hilltoppers, they are not going to go down easy. They're looking for a goal already, tries to find it, bounces up and off the ceiling in a bit of a weird shot. We got that hand cam now. Everyone take a look on the right side of your screen. Just get a small fraction of a moment there. We saw for maybe 3 seconds. I would count maybe 15 to 20 inputs. It truly is incredible how fast these players are moving.
Yeah, the actions required to keep up is absolutely absurd, and the level of precision that they have is across the front of the net.
Speaking of precision,
opens things up. That's a beautiful cross setup, and just 26 seconds, the Wildcats are up first.
I think what's interesting, going back to Game 2, 5 demolitions in 30, 40 seconds. No demolitions here in the beginning. One thing in common, Wildcats scoring first and Wildcats scoring early. It's their ability to score without that calculated plan. I've brought that up a few times. They can be spontaneous when they have to be, and I mean, by golly, it worked well.
Yeah, that really did look like a set piece, but it wasn't one that they had to plan. It's just one that they've practiced, and right here, sometimes the shot's too powerful, and even though the defenseman was there, it wasn't enough.
It just bounced off of him, almost went through him. If the ball could demo, that would have. Just going to find the double tap too, but one of them just a little bit too late. That is a 2-0 lead. I mean, we're only at 4:12 on the clock. We just got here.
Yeah, and again, Hilltoppers by no means out of this. As Dark actually has a little bit of space, tries and looks for the contest, and that ball just flies right over. As for Apostrophe, misses, but is looking to set up DPK. Nice stop from Risky. And now what I want to see out of the Hilltoppers is if you're noticing some more physicality in your back line, start pressuring their back line. Give yourself options for Risky to be that sharpshooter. Get it outfield because, again, the Wildcats can push too far forward. Be ready to take advantage.
2-0 still in favor of the Wildcats. The Hilltoppers been a little bit quiet since that first game. They've lost 2, and now they need to win one. They need to take us all the way to that coveted our first Game 5. Actually, it would be phenomenal to see 90 seconds off the clock, 3:30 still remaining for Apostrophe trying to end this early. He's got the nails, he's got the hammer, and he is ready to close this coffin on the Hilltoppers.
Yeah, really looking to do it, but again, still plenty of time. We haven't even reached halftime, and both of these goals were scored in the first minute, and the Hilltoppers are certainly a team that can do that right here. Pass over, pass down, demo in, but Apostrophe's there as the Wildcats are adjusting their own play style, keeping more members back if they see that attack, and now a chance, but denied.
Denied, but a secondary attempt actually also denied. Coming in quick, they're able to knock the ball down and around into the far right corner of the Hilltoppers' goal. All 6 players currently in this back third, and it looks like they're going to spread out a bit. Is that the shot from the midfield? Sean just barely going to be kissing the crossbar on that one. First half of the game getting ready to come to a close, and things still wrapping up 2-0 in favor of the Wildcats. We're going to need a turnaround from the Hilltoppers, and don't even get to finish the sentence before they show me they're ready.
Absolutely. It's as if they can hear us and are listening to our calls as they're just waiting for that response, and Risky being that forward player. And the thing is, this isn't a very risky position. It's just right where he needs to be. Normally you expect to see him as that second man, looking for those booms, or at times trying to set up that forward player. Instead, this time was that forward player, and a near immediate response from Apostrophe. But again, that fourth teammate in the post coming in clutch.
Dang, I gotta be honest, I'm gonna talk about Apostrophe's bad in game one more time, just due to the fact that he has absolutely turned it up to 110, but the poor guy cannot be doing anything, and tries and absolutely taking an opportunity off of that. Here goes Apostrophe, not enough boost to get there in time. Ties things up 2-2 on the half. Turbo, all we've done is give us half a game. We're basically at 0-0.
Yeah, exactly, and now the pressure is that much higher as both teams scoring quick, one after the other. They get one and immediately respond as Dark Risky with a good save, and now Tryzen looks to flick over one, can't quite find it, as now stepping forward in a good cut. Pass out to Rudgy, but Sean keeping it close.
Turbo with only 130 seconds left on the clock and a 2-2 scoreline. Are we going to be so lucky to see another overtime?
Oh, I hope so.
I shouldn't ask about it already, or I'm going to caster curse us out of it, but things really looking good on both sides, and I've got to say, this game in particular, the Hilltoppers have woken up. It was fight or flight, and their flight got delayed. They are only ready to fight. They're coming in hot. They're ready to take down the Wildcats and force a game 5, but to do that is going to be a very difficult task.
Remember, these Hilltoppers are goats, and they have pulled out their horns. They are rearing and ready, trying to find the side of this Wildcat and pierce on through. As now it seems the claws have come out, and although all three were up, Sean finishes the job.
All three were up, but Sean puts it down, comes in quick. We can see all three defenders, boom, ball touch, and then third player just not there in time. Sean has a technical open goal because that's one of those situations you just can't move fast enough. The follow-up was too quick.
No, you can't, and that's why it's all about momentum. If you get caught stuck in the goal, there's no way for you to react. You'd rather be on that back post, having that full reaction time. And Sean barely saves it. Shot down from Tryzen, barely deflected. And this is such a tight moment. And now, not quite an opportunity, but Rudgy, not sure about that flick. It gives space for DPK to push in. And now this orange box potentially under threat again. But there's that reaction. There's that forward pass. And those outlet passes into the net are so strong. We've seen it on both teams. And the forward down from Risky ties things up.
I am flabbergasted after that one. My goodness, Dark Risky off the crossbar, directly down, straight down. That is not something you see often. That is an insane, I don't know, accident, divine intervention, whatever you want to call it.
Perfect placement.
That is phenomenal. Perfect placement. That's what we're going to call it. Intentional. That's what that was. 60 seconds left on the clock. We are tied up 3-3 once again, and somebody has to put something down, or we're going to get our second overtime in the same series.
And I mean, it really does just go to show when you've got that number 2, number 3 seed right next to each other. The two teams, one a regional champion, the other regional champion runner-up only to Lake Wales. You're really seeing just how strong every squad is in this moment as Rudgy can't quite get it through. Tries and gets bumped. Sean nearly finishes the job, but cleared away, and 30 seconds left. It's looking like overtime may be looming, but DPK wants to put an end to that.
DPK wants to end it right here, right now, and he's got 25 seconds to do so, or we enter that overtime. The Hilltoppers, this is their tournament points. Whether they get it or they lose it, it decides their fate for the rest of this tournament, and it looks like they're going to try to find it here. A weird flick up and off the right side of the goal. That post not working well, going way high in the sky. Is anyone there to catch it? Knocked off to the left, 7 seconds left. We're down to single digits. Is there going to be that buzzer beater? Is that going to be that goal completer, that game ender? It goes up. Will it come down into a goal, or will it just hit the ground? A genius play for the Hilltoppers to force an overtime.
Yeah, I like that from Rudgy because what he's doing is he's recognizing we get a better shot at this goal, at this golden goal scenario, bringing this game back. Because remember, the Hilltoppers need this win to force Game 5, otherwise their tournament lives are over. And he says, you know, we've got some good kickoff potential, and we've got some good pressure right here, as I'm expecting to see some great plays. Risky, routed, but Tryzen right where he needs to be.
Tryzen, right place, right time. DPK Bruiser playing a hard defense as the ball is in the back third of the
pass down!
Is that it? Oh my goodness, just barely off the left post. Not going to be the completion that the Hilltoppers needed. 30 seconds into the overtime, and that timer continues to tick up until somebody brings this game to a close. Things were looking good for the Hilltoppers with the ball being cleared out into their back third. Here comes another turnaround, a third one from Apostrophe. It's up high. Can Sean complete it? Is this the nail in the coffin? No, it will be cleared back by the Hilltoppers.
Absolutely. And now, Bruiser with no space to go for a shot. Sean booming it to the left corner. No one to receive. So I do like this patience by Risky. Recognize the time, but Apostrophe opening up a potential line for the Wildcats to strike. pass now. Tryzen finds a slow 50, but it's in a dangerous position.
Oh, no.
Good shot out from Rudgy and saved away by DPK.
There was a world that just went in from midfield. Thank goodness DPK was there. Now they've been demoed, and it's going to be an opportunity for Hilltoppers to get this out of their back third. The setup was almost there. The turnaround finds itself in a positive spot. Tryzen needs to try a little bit harder to get that ball out of the back third because the setup is coming from the Wildcats, and you need to make sure that it's not an opportunity they can take advantage of. Sean sends it wide, Tryzen there to catch it, goes for the flick in, but it's immediately bumped away, and that's such a good example of what I want when I talk about those bumps and that physicality. Knock them away from the ball and keep the dream alive for your team. Is that Prof with the opportunity? No. Apostrophe does not fly to the goal. Tryzen brings a smack around into center field, and still nobody can get this ball in the opponent back third for more than a couple of seconds.
Not at all, and you can see some of these moves. The Hilltoppers look to bring Tryzen forward, play that redirect upfield. But the thing is, you need the space to get the pass down to make that play work. And Sean with a nice touch, but that's what I mean, where pressure can create opportunities. Tryzen puts us to a game 5.
We are going to a game 5. Grace, your wish is their command.
Exciting, guys. Can you talk about that bounce back mentality from the Summit Hilltoppers?
So there's something about Rocket League that I talk about every time I'm given the opportunity to be honest about that GG go next mentality and how it is more important to me in Rocket League than almost any other esport, because other esports, the games are longer. These are 5 minutes. You need to be looking at them as 5 minutes. You need to think, okay, that was a rough 5 minutes. Let's get into the next one. Game 2, a little bit rough. We do not give up until we can no longer play. It is that mentality, and it's that mindset that lets teams like the Hilltoppers do exactly what they just did.
Yeah, and beyond that, you know, they fell behind early. They were down 2-0, and when they managed to tie back up, then the Wildcats strike back. And the thing is, the Hilltoppers have resilience. They're able to just find these moments and opportunities. And that last goal was created off of this continued pressure. They stepped forward, they found an opening, and they forced a bad touch out of Sean, which was right into the waiting hands of Tryzen, who could slot into that upper 90.
As we head into this game 5, can we talk about the comeback play of Apostrophe too? Because he had a weak game 1, and now he's showing up all over the place.
Game 1 was definitely not his best. Is that semifinal nerves? Is that just getting a little bit tired? They've been playing, I mean, for days at this point. And when they're not even on stage, they're practicing. But Apostrophe came in, has really turned it around, and I think due to his performance, the Wildcats have been able to keep this dream alive. I don't know if he is the IGL, but I know he's playing like one right now.
Yeah, exactly. This entire Wildcat team, they're constantly coming, they're figuring out, you know, who are we taking out? And it's not, you know, simple things like, I'm passing to you. It's maybe one word. It's one word if it's a pass. It's one word if it's a demo. It's one word of what canister it is, so they can clear those comms and make sure that their mentals are as clear as possible and they can just play their best game. As a clear down field, backboard up, and no one defends, but Dark Risky not able to find a shot.
It was a smart play from Risky. We saw one of the players from the Hilltoppers go above him, and Risky was there to kind of check the backboard, check the backlash if it happened and the goal was missed, but instead it bounced off to the right instead of straight back, and Risky was leaning a little bit off to the left. So unfortunately, wrong place, right time. Rudgy going to be able to find the early demo on the Bruiser, but that's still not going to open up the goal.
Yeah, and one thing that I'm noticing out of both teams, not that they're playing scared, but that they're playing cautious.
There's respect.
They're respecting the other. They understand that this is an important moment and that they cannot give too much space. Oh, tries and slows things down, looks for the bump, and that's one of those sort of 1v1 plays where you take an air dribble, drop it down, go for the bump, but now I think there's an open net. Bruiser dribbles past the entire team and opens things up.
DPK Bruiser putting the Wildcats large and in charge for the third time this series, starting them off with the 1-point advantage. And Turbo, something we didn't get the chance to talk about is this game is scary. Yeah. There is no more game for one of these teams after this. This is somebody's final game here in Game 5, semifinals. And to have it decided by a semifinal like this, at least you know you're going out with a bang.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, right here, you can completely say that this is certainly a third place performance for whoever comes out
no doubt.
In this loss. But the thing is, you have two titans of EGFH and a weak clear, but Tryzen to pick it up. And now actually push too far forward. This is an opportunity. Risky found the shot. We're even up.
We are even up. 2-2, 1-1. Only one of these teams gets to walk out of this in the next 3 minutes and 27 seconds, and they are all fighting for their tournament lives. Folks, let me tell you, you have never seen determination like these kids right now. They did not come all this way. They did not eliminate all those teams to lose right here, right now, and they're going to fight tooth and nail, going to get 200% until the bitter end.
Yeah, absolutely. These teams have to kick it into overdrive because for most of them, the only time their season comes crazy, and Tryzen Tryson looking more like Ian out here, finding the double taps, becoming an artist of his own.
I mean, that's a one-man show. That is a single-hand performance from Tryson there. What a performance, and what an opening. All of a sudden, they're down by one. Blink and you miss it. We are back in game 4 with the Hilltoppers in the lead once again.
Yeah, Hilltoppers in the lead once again. Now we'll have to see how's the response and a quick shot, and blink and you miss it once again. Tied up, even as basically we've got a refresh game with 3:10 on the clock.
I think we can have about 4 of those players put their controllers down right now because this is Bruiser v. Tryson. The only 2 to score. Both of them putting down 2 points. They are looking for that win, and they are trying to deadlift their team. We're going to have to get these boys some chiropractors after this because they are going to need some serious work for all the weight they're lifting.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that first goal was from Risky. It was a great breakout opportunity.
You're right.
And the thing is, that just comes from this player's recognition. We talk about those long goals, those sort of sniper shots, and actually an opportunity for Rajiv, and now maybe one from Risky. But again, it's that recognition, seeing when the other team is pushed too far up. And I'm going to say in this tournament, one of the best in the business is Dark Risky.
Without a doubt, Risky, one of the strongest players, one of the best mechanical players here, and I think that's something a lot of people can agree with. Krapowski, a great shot of Blink off into the left corner. The clear from Risky has to be a good one. Makes it past that midfield post. The goal no longer of a concern. Oh, the setup was there. Even the player, the teammate, was there to knock it in, but the disruption from the Wildcats goes a long, long way and sends the Hilltoppers right back to square one.
Yeah, sends them back to square one, as now Sean receives in the corner. And again, this is the tough spot because you see there's this barrage of these Hilltoppers running in forward, and now an awkward clear saved by Propostrophe. Otherwise, I think that's in the back of the Wildcat net. As pass to the side, looks for the shot, can't find a double, easily saved, but now pinched up once again, and Sean already up. These are looking like some freestylers with how early they're going up.
2 minutes. We've got less than half of our final game of this semifinal left, and somebody has to walk away a victor. But Turbo, if this goes by a 1-point advantage in a game 5, that third team can walk away proud. Is it gonna hurt? Absolutely, but to know you went toe-to-toe with the behemoth of these opponents, you've got to be kidding me! All the way in, but it's got to be 100% of that 99. Just not going to cut it. Tryson going to kiss the crossbar once again. 90 seconds on the clock, and the pressure is on. Somebody walks away a grand finalist right here, right now.
Absolutely, someone will walk away knowing that they have punched at the very least the title of top 2 in EGFH. And the fact of the matter, to do it at LAN brings all those extra bragging rights with you. But now in the last minute of play, you're gonna have to see who can be that much more precise. Because I've got a feeling that we are at golden goal, whether it's the next one to score or we make it to overtime. I think the next score is the game winner.
I'm right there with you, Turbo. And Tryson has decided to show you it a little bit early. 61 seconds left on the clock, and Tryson, if that is the golden goal, Tryson is easily going to be my MVP of this series, because what a carry here in game 5, and it has just been a phenomenal performance up and through this point. With the Wildcats, 60 seconds, that is 20% of this game left on the table.
Yeah, there's still time to respond, and I was expecting, to see a little volley until we hit about 30 seconds before there's a real scoring opportunity, but Tryson just with a great response, and now Risky open net, he found the recognition, and now 2 goals up. The Hilltoppers look for a revenge grudge match against the Highlanders.
And this is, I don't even know what to call this. We're looking at 24 seconds per goal from the Wildcats, a team that went completely and utterly undefeated up to this point. But this giant is about to be slain. The Hilltoppers are 45 seconds away from doing what many thought impossible just mere minutes ago.
Absolutely is.
If that goes in, it's...
Tryson finds the game winner, and you can see it on the Wildcat camera. They're struggling. They know that their season is coming to an end, but still an amazing series from both teams. All of these players showing that they deserve to be here. All of these players showing that they're not just, the best of high schoolers. They're some of the best in Rocket League, period.
I mean, one of the most entertaining, if not the most entertaining series we've seen all weekend is happening right here, right now. This is just phenomenal. With 33 seconds left, we would need nothing short of a miracle to save the Wildcats. Unfortunately, I do think their season is getting ready to come to a close, but the Hilltoppers coming in, they were one of my sleeper teams yesterday, and now they have made it all the way to grand finals. An amazing performance, an amazing opening. And I do want to take this time again to say, the dream stays alive. 17 seconds left. It's not impossible, but it is not probable.
Yeah, it's not impossible. And right there, you saw DPK and Dark Risky in a bit of a roll one, but DPK hops up, finds that pass, breaks the roll one, but that's okay. I mean, at this point, you're playing for a title, you're playing for a championship. That's what matters more, as Now all the Hilltoppers have to do is keep this ball out of their net for just 15 more seconds. And with that clear, it all but settles it as the Wildcats will fall in their first series really all season. As now the Hilltoppers look for revenge in their grudge matches. Rudgy ends it with style, a double tap to top it off.
Rudgy with the buzzer beater to secure that semifinals victory here for the Hilltoppers. An amazing performance and a huge clutch play from them, going all the way to a game 5. And really, the last 20, 30 seconds, they decided our time is now. We are going up against Lake Wales right here, right now. And they have done it. That was my sleeper team yesterday. And they've made it all the way to Grants.
That's one of those matches. It's a shame to see someone lose.
Absolutely.
I mean, the fight and determination in both teams right there. Wilson Central, at least in all the playoff games I watched this weekend, they scored first in every single game. How much more difficult does that make it for someone to take them down?
There's a mental game to it, I think, a lot of the time, where if a team scores first and if they score early, which Wilson loves to do, you're like, uh-oh. Well, all of a sudden, we're already
You're
losing.
on your heels.
We just got here, and we're already in trouble. And I think Wilson definitely does well of finding that early goal. Sean, in particular, it seems like he's always the one to sink that early shot in, and oftentimes that can turn into a snowball effect. But with a team like we just saw, they were ready. They had their shovels out. They were ready to get all the snow out of the way that they needed, and it worked out well. But like you said, it's always hard to see a team lose, but that was probably the hardest one because you know how bad Wilson wanted this.
Yeah, you know how bad they wanted it. You saw it from their season performance. You saw them just have absolute dominance in their conference, in playoffs. They were able to, not lose a single game. Their only loss of this entire EGF season was a forfeit where they just didn't have all their players available. So when your first loss of the season really does come on that biggest stage, I mean, honestly, you can't be mad. You made it to effectively top 3, battling it out, and Lake Wales would have been no easier competitor. But now the Hilltoppers, we know they wanted it. We know Lake Wales said that they were the team to watch, and they said that they were the ones to be worried about because they went 3-2 in regionals. Now we'll have to see if it's the same story when we get to Grants.
We just saw the Wildcats packing up, but you know what? Tip of the cowboy hat to them and to all the other teams participating. There's been some good battles going on this weekend. When we come back, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from the winners. The Summit Hilltoppers about to take on the top-seeded Lake Wales. Stay with us. Welcome back to the ESPN Wide World of Sports, home of the 2022 EGF High School Rocket League National Championship. The semifinals are over. We now know the 2 top teams in the country who will be competing for that championship trophy. It's the top seed Lake Wales and the 3 seed the Summit Hilltoppers. Summit just wrapped up their 5-game win against the Wilson Central Wildcats. We're going to go down to the gaming floor where Dor is standing by with the winners.
Thank you so much, Gracie. I'm here with Summit. You guys just put on almost inarguably the single most obscene game I have seen in the entirety of this tournament. I've seen some ridiculous games, high scoring, low scoring. That was by far the closest and most intense thing. You guys had an incredible energy, but Risky, I got to start with you. You guys have this huge fan section up here in the crowd that are cheering for every single goal. Is that fueling you all the way through?
Yeah, and I can hear it too through the headphones.
That's what I like to hear. Support from family and friends. Are they coming down from New Jersey?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. That's amazing. Okay, we're going to scoot down to Trizen now. Trizen, you had quite a roller coaster of a series. It was a lot of emotions, and I could see them all going up there. Game number 2 went all the way to overtime where an unfortunate and really uncommon mistake was made. And it seemed like game number 3 mentally it was still in the tank, but game number 4, same situation, same overtime. You find it in you, you dig deep, you keep the team in it. After that, did all the momentum change, and what was that whole experience like?
I think after game 2, after the whiff, my mindset started to change. The nerves started getting into me. I totally relaxed, started just playing normal Rocket League. Felt really good. I was like, I came down here for a reason. I'm not going to go home without even making it to the finals. So I started peeking and just clapped them.
Hey, that's what I like to hear. All right, we're getting the last player in. Grand Finals is coming up. You just watched them play and dominate another team. How are you feeling going into it?
We're ready. That's all.
Hey, a man, a few words. I'm going to be straight with you guys. The desk asked me to do my prediction while I'm down here. And in front of you guys, no less. I can't do that. What I will say, I abstain from the prediction. But what I will give you, you called me out on Twitter. You said I'm going to have to put that shoe back on my head. If you guys end up winning that game, if you end up back here on this interview spot, I'll let you put it on there for me. Yeah, you can put that shoe on my head. I'll tell you what. I'll make it worth it for you. Any last words, though? Any last words before we head into fun?
We just got to play. They're a good team, you know. We're a good team. We've lost them before, but I know for me, I've been playing 100 hours in 2, grinding the game out, and we're feeling ready for them.
That's what I like to hear. Thank you guys so much. We're going to send it back up to Gracie in the desk to break it down.
All right, I was so ready to put Dora on the spot there, making his pick in front of everyone. But if we can't do it, I'm happy that the teams are, okay? You guys, all right, top-seeded Lake Wales. I mean, they've been the team to beat this entire tournament. What are your predictions for this final?
When it comes to, predictions, I've been, looking at the numbers. I've been crunching everything that we've seen so far. And when you look at these two teams, their goal differentials very, very close, both within, 5-6. You're looking at how well they've been scoring against lower-seeded teams, how well they've been doing against higher-seeded teams, both of them neck and neck. So what I'm going to say, though, is what it really comes down to is previous experience, and that's what we've seen out of Lake Wales. The last regional was between these two teams, and we saw 3-2 in favor of Lake Wales, and I've got a feeling that if we get to that 3-2 scoreline once again with Lake Wales in favor, they're going to close it out. I'm going with a 4-2 in favor of Lake Wales.
Okay, so analyst Septilence and my heart have two different answers. Summit is a team that I've known for a long time. To see them get to the second place is very cool. And I love a good underdog story, which they clearly are because they are the lower seed, and I think it would be great. But raw statistics, Lake Wales has dominated everybody we have seen up to this point. It has hardly been close in any game. So I do think we're probably looking no, I'll spice it up. I'm gonna say 4-3. I think Summit can take it.
Okay. Well, paper always says one thing, but the heart, you don't know.
Gotta follow my heart on this
right?
one. I think Summit can do it.
All right. Well, we have plenty more Rocket League action coming up after this. They are getting ready for the grand final. Come back for the championship match after this break. All right, we are about to head into our grand final match of the tournament this weekend. But before we move ahead into the action, we're not done talking about that last semifinal match. Summit comes out with a 5-game win. And guys, what is the Intel core moment of the match?
I think that the clear moment that really sort of marked this tempo shift was we look at Game 4. Hilltoppers must win. Push it to overtime right after a 4-1 loss against the other side. So right here, we're seeing them pick it up. It's an attack from the Wildcats, but then look at Trizen right here. Quick transition, finds the shot, gets past 2. You can't write a better goal.
And we had just said the next goal probably dictates the end of this game. And we were correct. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, a couple more were scored, but the initial point stands that this was the pivotal moment. This is where the tide turned for the Hilltoppers to come out on top of that series.
And Trizen, you guys have kept saying right place, right time.
Always.
What makes him so special?
I think I talk about a lot of players that are really well-rounded. They can do the offense, they can do the defense, but somehow Trizen just seems a little bit faster. He's always there if he's getting a demolition, if he needs to block a shot, if he needs to find a shot. He just always seems to be exactly where he needs to be. Whether that's team communication, whether that's his individual understanding of the game, who knows? But whatever he's got going on, I think it's right. And I think it's the key to them winning this series.
Yeah, and one point that I've noticed specifically with Trizen is that whenever the Hilltoppers are trying to break out onto offense, what they do is they take Trizen, he'll drop the ball back down to the corner, leave it for Risky or Rudgy, and will then push forward, wait for that pass, look for a redirect, whether that's going to be back out to the wall to his teammate or right on net, as we saw in that core moment. It just comes down to that recognition, being ready to step up. But the thing is, a team like Lake Wales, they're going to see that pattern, they're going to recognize when Trizen tries to step forward before that pass is coming, and they're going to cut it off.
Okay, and in terms of beating Lake Wales, is it still all about Ian Cito, or is there another way? More things they got to keep an eye on?
I think we're looking at two teams that, of course, have 3 very strong players, but both teams have that center of the arch. I think we're looking at Trizen and we're looking at Ian. And if either team is smart enough to completely prevent that person from playing the game, that team should be able to walk away with a win.
And one thing I'm going to say is that when we look at the Hilltoppers, they're very well-rounded. They like to play these team set pieces. They like to have that that structure. But the thing is, when you're looking at, who's that flashy player? You're seeing Rudgy. He's the one who we saw have, some serious highlights yesterday. Can pull off those flip resets, those double taps. But the thing is, those are possible by almost every member of Lake Wales, nearly on command. Obviously, we saw the most out of Ian Cito, but still, there's maybe a little bit less flashy playmaking on the Hilltoppers, so they're going to have to make up with that with really having those tight infield passes. They're not going to be able to rely on Trizen stepping forward because the Highlanders are going to see him step forward. They're going to know a pass is headed that direction, and they're going to send a man to either demo Trizen or pick up that pass midair.
I think what's really interesting about this game, is that both these teams know each other's play style to the point of I don't think anybody gets to play comfortably. I think we're going to be seeing 6 spontaneous players because, like I mentioned in the last series as well, we cannot be going with textbook right now because these teams wrote the textbook. They have been utilizing that textbook for years on these individual calculated strategic plays. I think we need an insane amount of in-the-moment plays. An insanely reactive team should be the one to walk away with this win.
All right, we're about to start game 1 right here. So real quick, guys, but what about this turnaround time? The Highlanders have been able to sit back for about an hour and just watch. I mean, what's it like for the Hilltoppers rushing into this?
I'm going to say I think that actually the Hilltoppers have a bit of an advantage. They were just on that stage. They were just at these setups. Their fingers are already warm. Their controllers are ready to roll, whereas the Highlanders, well, yes, they did have that sort of analytical moment. They were able to break down. They have these plays fresh in their mind. But the thing is, their hands might be a little bit cold. If they didn't get any warm-up time, we're going to have to see if that impacts their mechanics, their team play going into game 1.
That's exactly what I'm thinking about, Turbo, is there's a downside to both. Either they studied their opponent and didn't get to play, or they got to play and didn't keep too tight of an eye on the Hilltoppers. It looks like nobody's keeping an eye on Trizen as he comes in quick. Ian Cito, though, the 2 names I said to watch out for are giving us starting with a bang here in this first game of Grand Finals. Durkee goes for the shot early. It's going to be blocked out now by Dark Risky, who's got an immediate turnaround from Ian. Where's the follow-up when you need it? Durkee tries, but Rudgy able to catch it out. The ball goes high, and it's Trizen who finds that first touch once again, trying to clear it toward the goal of Lake Wales.
Yeah, and what we're seeing is the Hilltoppers, they're doing their best to find some space, and honestly, I would have liked to see a turnaround from Dark Risky as he was downfield, but instead, trying to leave this for Trizen. But like I said, you're going to see these passing plays materialize in front of the Highlanders, and instead of, waiting for the Hilltoppers to receive that pass. They're going to get midair, they're going to cut it off before it can even be received.
There was a point I tried to make last series and I didn't get the chance, so I'm going to try to make it here. There's one of two things that happens in these games, these 4 or 7 games. We either get insanely high-flying, high-scoring games, or we're going to have 4 overtimes, 7 overtimes with 1 point on the board. I really do think that is very likely because these teams are playing at such a similar caliber. This isn't your round 1 bracket where the highest seed is going against the lowest. This is the 2 remaining teams, the 2 best teams that we have to offer here this weekend, going toe-to-toe in up to 7 matches in a row.
Yeah, and there is something to be said about stamina, where both of these teams, they had strong sets, and the Highlanders a fewer games, and Ian nearly had enough space, but Dark Risky, again, that speed, finding that defense, and that's what the Hilltoppers are so good at. Their players know what kind of saves they can go for, they know their spacing, and right here, Rudgy stealing away that boost, not allowing those mechanics to come out from the Highlanders.
A boost drop might go a really long way, because both these teams love to play quick, and you need a boost to be playing quick. So if either of them has the insight to see forward and look and, hey, maybe get rid of the thing that makes him go quick, right? Maybe get rid of the thing that makes him go quick to score a goal there in game 1. That's going to be Trizon coming in early. We've only got a minute 50 off the clock in Lake Wales. They're already a little bit lower on the scoreboard than they're used to.
Yeah, already. I think this is the first time we've seen Lake Wales ever play from behind this weekend, and a great start. It might be that, again, the Hilltoppers, they're fresh off their last series. They're ready to roll, and they've been hot, and they're riding that energy because we bring it up over and over again. Momentum, momentum, momentum. And they certainly have it, but Extreme finds an opening. Doesn't quite get the shot on target as Rudgy is there for the save.
Rudgy is there to save it. I thought Extreme John had an open goal to take advantage of, but unfortunately, that goal just a little too close. Coming in quick now is Durkee looking to get the defense away. Rudgy goes for a goal, but all momentum snatched away. That is an open goal because all 3 defenders are rocking and rolling in that midfield. 2:40 on the clock. We are just now entering the second half of game 1. Will they win by a single point? Are they gonna make it 2? Coming in quick, the Hilltoppers finding that 2-0 lead just shy of halftime.
And Rudgy, again, see, look at this, Trizon setting up for the team, and Ian looks for a 50, but instead Rudgy slows down the pace of play, looks for the dunk, and it is just the right decision to make. As now 2-0 up, Lake Wales facing their first challenge. And it could be that the Hilltoppers are our Godslayers of this week.
It would be amazing to say the least, Turbo. To see somebody take a game on Lake Wales would be a first. That's something we haven't seen in ages. And it looks like they are just getting warmed up. The Hilltoppers 3-0. We just entered the second half, and Lake Wales, they just cannot get their little wheels on the ball.
It's not something we haven't seen in ages. It's something we haven't seen pretty much at all. The only team to take games, period, off of this squad are the Hilltoppers. The only team to take a series, they don't exist. There isn't a single one in EGF, and I've got a feeling that to find one, you're going to have to get into the collegiate scene, as these boys are absolutely incredible. And Risky finding this one. It seems that the Highlanders may be a little cold after that break and are using this game to warm up, figuring out the Hilltoppers as they're still riding that heat from the last series.
You know, I talked about it and I was a little bit scared because they got to do one of 2 things. They got to watch the Hilltoppers and not stay warmed up, or stay warmed up and kind of not get to pay full attention to that last series. Looks like they paid full attention to the series, but their hands just not with their brains. Rudgy, though, that man is sinking them like they're free. Already we've got 4-0 in favor of the Hilltoppers, excuse me. And it's about to be 5-0. That's another open goal, Turbo. That's another, at least the 3rd we've seen.
And one thing that I'm seeing is that if you watch the way that the Highlanders like to play in this midfield, they'll tend to have one member up on the wall, look for that small infield pass down. And the thing is, the Hilltoppers are watching these plays materialize, they're cutting them off, and they're intercepting these passes. I said that's what the Hilltoppers would need to do, and boy, is it what they're doing.
A double demo comes through early on. It's going to be Trizon and John taking on a couple of players. A little 2v2 for about 2.4 something seconds, and it's going to be a rough moment for either team, to really take ball control. Nobody lost a teammate, or nobody kept one rather, so both teams at that disadvantage. We are just now getting down to our final 100 seconds of game 1, and with a 5-0 lead on the board. Lake Wales definitely in a tough spot.
Yeah, very tough spot, but again, game 1, a little bit cold. Some teams take a minute to warm up, as now Turkey maybe looking for one for morale, but still, this next minute 30, it's a matter of if they're reading our set pieces, if they're reading our infield passes, maybe we need to get a little more mechanical. Maybe every time we get that full boost canister, we've got to be going for something fancy, or maybe they want to go to a ping pong style gameplay where they can maybe be just that tiny bit faster.
That tiny bit faster goes a long way, and I honestly have not been paying attention to see if the boost drought is still kind of happening against Lake Wales, or if it's instead kind of been given up a little bit. Maybe the play style changes with the 5-0 lead. You're just trying to keep it at that 0. 0, right? Because it hurts to walk away from a game without a single point on the board. Maybe that's the real goal that the Hilltoppers are after.
Yeah, maybe that is the real goal, is again, you just want to sink one. You want to see what's the adjustment we need to make, because as we saw in the first minute and now in the last minute, Lake Wales are starting to pressure into that orange half. It hasn't materialized any scoring opportunities, but at the very least, they're holding these goats back. They're not letting those horns sink too deep. They might be trying to brandish their swords as Iancito sinks one in.
Now this is what I'm worried about. If you're a Hilltoppers fan, you get a little bit worried. You're looking at the 5-1 score line, you're like, oh, we've got this game. But there are a few more down the line. And if Iancito is getting warmed up early, that's definitely something to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that, again, this is just the heat and the speed that you get from winning a best of 5. I mean, there is nothing more exhilarating than having, you know, your tournament life decided right in front of you by your own hand, and then getting to play on that same stage just minutes later. Able to ride that heat, have your family, your friends, and all of your fans coming down from New Jersey. I mean, what a trip to show off for these teams. What a commitment from those families.
Yeah, and I mean, Lake Wales, you know, this is kind of interesting. Lake Wales, semi-local, right? If they're a little more familiar with the area. I know we've got somebody all the way from New Jersey giving them an absolute run for their money. 3 seconds left on the clock. The Hilltoppers walking away with our first game victory of Grand Finals.
Yeah, and we can see, we talk about how the Highlanders like to play in the air, and right there, they're saying, okay, our midfield passes on the ground won't work. Let's put them into the air. A great redirect, nearly on target. I've got a feeling it's going to get that much more precise the deeper we go into this series.
We've got a little bit of interaction here. We can see the Highlanders talking a little bit. What do we need to change? What do we need to do different? And honestly, they've just got to get in the face, get a little bit more aggressive.
So it was like you mentioned before we went into game one, it was rust, not rest. When you're sitting back there for a long time, hands got cold. You guys talked about a boost drought. The Hilltoppers, or Rudgy specifically, stealing a boost from the Highlanders. How significant is that?
I mean, incredibly, especially at the caliber we're watching these teams. You use the boost to get demolitions to go faster than the traditional car speed, and it really puts your team often in an advantageous position. So Rudgy going out of his way to guarantee as little boost as possible for the opposing team makes them slow, keeps them behind, and makes them much easier to demo.
Yeah, and beyond that, all of these flashy plays that we've seen out of the Highlanders, a lot of them are very high boost plays. If you're picking a ball up off the ground, you're using most of your tank. If you're having to push into the ground for a pinch, if you're having to go for a flip reset to get around the ball. But again, we're going to have to see whether those adjustments are made, because the Hilltoppers, I'm very, very impressed with the speed, the precision, and the strength they've shown.
Yeah, and I mean, another thing, like you said, the second those wheels leave the ground, you're probably using boost. It's very common to see that. So it also, yeah, it really clips the wings of Lake Wales and keeps them on the ground a little more than we may expect. Coming in quickly now, Iancito looking for an opportunity to strike. An early goal for the Lake Wales team here would go absolutely insane, just like that. Iancito really opening the gates. What did I say last game? I said, uh-oh, Ian getting even a single goal. That's a sign of a warm-up, and that's when we can really start to get worried. Lake Wales, they lose one game. They are not looking to lose anymore. This is the #1 seed team, folks. This is the team looking to walk away with that Grand Finals championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was more important is that you saw 2 members on the goal line for the Hilltoppers, but the precision on that pass, they knew they were going for a waterfall down, and the thing is, the Hilltoppers just have to hope that they're in position, and instead, Ian read the pass, read it well, found the back of the net, and in just a few seconds, they're back in the lead, back to where they're comfortable.
Extreme John, a great demo on goal there, takes Stark Risky out of the equation, makes it much harder for the Hilltoppers to engage. Coming in quick, it's going to be an opportunity for Lake Wales, if they can get it a little bit more to the left of the goal instead, bounce back towards center field a little bit into a no-man's land, and Iancito, he's got ball control, but can he hold on to it? He's about to go into a bit of a 2v1 against these defenders. It looks like the Hilltoppers are keeping it in the back third. There's the demo. Where's the follow-up? But unfortunately, it is nowhere to be seen.
And Extreme John doesn't get that one. Might have been called off by Ian as the respawn was there, so had a slightly better angle. But now, Turkey gets past 2, but still that third man always going to find that save, as now the transition here, but denied by Ian.
We're only a minute off the clock, a 1-0 scoreline in favor of Lake Wales. The demolition from Rudgy comes through, but nobody's there for the follow-up, and that's a pattern we've seen 3 times here in Game 2 already. The demo is there, the play is in place, but the player is not there to slam that ball into goal. So maybe if the Hilltoppers can clean that part up just a little bit, that little bit absolutely goes a long way.
Yeah, it most certainly does, and right now, Trizen looking to make some space, but again, I said that the Lake Wales, they can't go for these tight infield passes, so what are they doing? Everywhere around, use the backboard to your advantage and get everyone involved.
I loved that goal. Oh my goodness. I don't know if y'all could hear me gasp, but the tap in from Ian, Extreme John rolls up, down into the far right corner, off the post, into goal. That's a second point for the team. A really clever way to get it in there and prevent the defense.
Exactly, and it is, you know, sort of those moments where you can pass off the corners, get these really tight bounces, because those are not easy passes to make. And right there, slowing down from Rudgy, looking to break more axles today, as you saw one car fly right over, but of course two waiting in the wings. Now it's the Hilltoppers who need to respond, as Ian, with a little bit of space, gets over one. A nice flick, should be a comfortable save, but still the pressure continues to mount.
Pressure absolutely mounting as we're getting close to the second half of our second game here. Lake Wales are already up by 2. They're looking to give us a score of a 1-1 scoreline to make it a traditional best of 5, just like every other series we've seen so far. But this is a best of 7 after all, so the Hilltoppers were to win 2. I got to really shake things up against Lake Wales, but Lake Wales, they have the chance to equalize. They've got 2 minutes and 43 seconds, excuse me, right here, right now. But Extreme John and Ian Cito are ready to keep the money moving. They put that third goal down, 2:40 on the clock.
And what a dirty 50 right here. John knows there's someone coming across the line. He's like, okay, I'll just sit in front of the ball, make sure it dribbles past, and there is no one on that back line. Right now, it feels like the script has flipped for these two teams. Last time it was the Hilltoppers, 3-0 up right around halftime. This time it's Lake Wales. It's those adjustments, it's that speed, and it's that recognition of what needs to be done. And some great placement from John, but a better save from Risky.
The waffle iron has been flipped indeed here, Turbo, and this is a really rough moment for the Hilltoppers. You talked about the importance of a game 1. Losing a game 1, especially in a best of 7, you've got so much time to turn on the gas, to turn things around, and to put that other team back down, or at least tie the series, like Lake Wales is getting ready to do. We've got 132 seconds on the clock right now. The pressure is mounting. Oh! Ian Cito confident enough to clear it in front of his own goal, and just barely, the Hilltoppers missed that chance.
And look at that quick transition out of Extreme John. And that's what makes this Lake Wales team so difficult, is you're like, oh, that's an awkward ball. They won't be able to, you know, come up off the wall and find it. Well, they do every single time. And Ian right there, interrupting the shot as it turns into an immediate transition of a pass. And that's what's so impressive of teams at this level, is that every single time they're booming the ball, it is towards a teammate. Yep. Every single time that they're keeping it close, it's because they have a flick or a setup that they're going for. And when you reach that level of precision, it becomes so tough, as it really does just look like a play materializing in front of you. As a great save.
That demolition was so intelligent from John there. Did you see it? He was tracking Risky in the air. Risky tracking the ball, not paying attention to the ground. John flies in underneath him. It demos him before the wheels can even touch the ground. An incredible play, a huge disruption against the Hilltoppers. There's only 75 seconds left on the clock. We're getting to that point where you're more scared of the timer than you are your opponents.
Yeah, at this point, it's starting to feel like the end of game number 1, where the Hilltoppers just want to see if they can break out of this play style. But we brought it up. You know, Dor mentioned that Mary Poppins bag of tricks. Yeah. We have seen 2 completely different play styles out of the Highlanders. And the fact of the matter is, we've seen 2 other types already this weekend, which means that if the Hilltoppers adjust, there's going to be another one just waiting from the Highlanders.
45 seconds, that's 1 goal per 15 seconds here from the Hilltoppers, and that's going to be a tough thing to turn around. They almost find the 1, maybe the double, but it goes a little too high, gets cleared away, and as we enter that 35-second threshold, we're looking at 12 seconds per goal, give or take, and things are really starting to get scary for the Hilltoppers here in game 2. We're going to be tied up 1-1. This is absolutely still anybody's series.
Most certainly is. Risky looks for a setup, and again, I want to see potentially 1 goal in these last 20 from the Hilltoppers, as it would go to show that they can adjust. They can adjust on the fly, but still, they'll have a small bit of time between these 2 games. They'll be able to talk it out with themselves, with their coach, figure out exactly how they can change, figure out what types of passes they can make. And right here, a clean cross right into a near shot. I like these adjustments. They're finding opportunities, and that would have been a goal had the time not run out. So we're seeing these changes happen in real time, and it's really incredible to see.
And I love that we get the chance to look at this team right now and kind of, we don't get to hear what they're saying, but we can see the intensity. He's saying, you and me. He's saying, we got this right here, right now. He was gesturing, I don't know the player's names at the top of my head, but there was that clear gesture. He was like, we've got this right now. They are back in that full mentality. They've tied up a grand final series.
So the script flipped in that one, because game 1, as you mentioned, J-Turb, about halfway through, it was Summit up 3-0. This time it was Lake Wales up 3-0. And I think a big part of that was how quickly they scored, less than 10 seconds. What does that do for a team's confidence?
I mean, back to what I mentioned when we talked about Wilson, right? I talked about they were notorious for getting that immediate early goal, and it definitely can boom a confidence of the opponents. It's like I said, you show up and 10 seconds in, you're like, we're already losing. We just got here. So I definitely think it has a toll on the mental.
Yeah, it certainly has a toll on the mental, but I think more importantly, it showed that this is, you know, a 7-game series, sure, and there is that GG Go Next mentality, but the thing is, these games feed into the other.
Yes.
You saw the final score in that first game coming from the Highlanders, and you see the immediate strikeout from them in game 2, showing that, you know, that power, that strength is coming out. And here we can see Lake Wales Highlanders family all cheering them on here from just about an hour outside of town, coming in to support their family, support their boys. And I love to see that Puerto Rican flag flying high.
That's so cute. I love to see that. I really do. It's a good moment, and I'm sure it's a huge family bonding moment. They're all going to come out and see their brother, son, whatever, really shine in a moment like this. They've made it all the way to grand finals in one of the most competitive brackets I have seen in a really long time. 15 seconds off the clock here in game 3. And this next goal, truly, they dictate the pace for the remainder of the series. If a team comes in, they drop 1, 2, 3 out the gate, it's probably going to be the series in their favor. But if we're looking at a 1-1, 2-2 scoreline, I think this game's still alive.
Yeah, I think it certainly is. If the Hilltoppers can respond here, it's probably fine. Remember, this is the best of 7. So even if you lose here, so long as there are proactive adjustments and good change being made, like look at this, drop down straight up to Rudgy, but just a little faster from Ian. Can't find the shot. Where's the response? Right there from Dark Risky, booming it outfield. And here it is again. You'll see that last player from the Hilltoppers strike forward with their boom, so that way they can meet the ball as it lands and try and demo those Highlanders.
I like to see the Hilltoppers get a little thirsty for that boost once again. I think making that a difficult item for the Lake Wales team to grab was a huge play. A double demolition comes in quick, gives ball control just fully in favor of Lake Wales. They've got about 3-4 seconds to really restabilize, discuss a current plan, and maybe even name a strategy they'd like to go for right here. Durkee, a good read there, gets the up and over, completely eliminates one of the defenders from the Hilltoppers, now pushing into a 3v2, into a 3v1, into a 3v none. Ian Cito walking that right into goal.
Yeah, walks it into the net, and I mean, this is really all just extreme, John. Got past 2 in the air, and Rudgy, best effort, but the thing is, even if you make contact, that is still going in. There's 2 members ready to just punch it through, and first blood struck once again by the Highlanders.
A scary moment for sure, right? It's not as bad as a 10-second goal. 90 seconds is a lot of time for a team to have to wait, but now as that one comes through, 5 seconds off the clock, and this is where it gets scary once again. Lake Wales, they had a rough game 1, they weren't warmed up, but by golly, are they never going to let that happen again.
Yeah, like I said, you know, Caster Curse is real, and we just exhibited it right now. As you said, they scored in less than 10 at the start of the last game, and they heard you and did it once again here in game 3. As now, again, that 2-goal safety net has been built for the Highlanders, but knowing this team, they're looking for more, and a great interrupt up top from Trizen.
Durkee coming in quick along the left side, going to be able to find a huge opportunity off the teammate to clear into center field. They're immediately getting the turnaround, but it's going to be cleared all the way down into no man's land. Demolition from Dark Risky, now onto Ian Cito. You've removed that linchpin. Let's see how quickly the building can crumble before it is put back. 2 minutes off the clock. Things looking a little bit shaky here, especially as the Hilltoppers are fighting constantly just to maintain ball control.
Yeah, and right here, Trizen loses it off the wall, and actually a little miscommunication you can see out of Extreme John. But there is still, you know, a good position here for the Highlanders. They're still with a bit of control, and they like playing this ball high. They like moving it around, slowing the pace of play, because they know the Hilltoppers are the ones who need to pressure. The Hilltoppers are the ones more prone to make mistakes because, again, that pressure is on. They need goals, and right here, the one might materialize for the other side.
Oh my goodness, I cannot wait to see the replay on that. That defender has to be as close can be, but as everybody knows, close only counting in horseshoes and hand grenades, and neither of those being used here in Rocket League. Oh, just on the far side, and that is going to be a 3rd-point victory here for Lake Wales. 2.5 minutes left. Lake Wales scored 3 times in 2.5. Who's to say the Hilltoppers can't?
Who's to say they can't? But again, it's a matter of control. It's a matter of whether or not you have that space, as right now it's getting cut off by Ian, nearly stepping forward and finding that goal. And one thing I love to see from the Highlanders is they're proactive on their rotates back. They look for these demos, but beyond that, they understand when it's no longer their time in the play. They don't try to wait. They don't try to think what if. They just say, am I in this play or am I out of it? Because if they're in, they stay and they follow. If they're out, they loop back and are ready to set one up once again.
And I think you're totally right. The second you think, what if, the play's already over. It needs to be a reaction. You need to be in there like a swimwear. Speaking of in there, we need to see the Hilltoppers get a couple of goals in there before they get 3-0 to 1 again. It's 2nd game in a row, and that's when things could really start to look shaky. Durkee finds a huge demolition onto Rudgy. You've taken down one of the power players. Where's the follow-up your team needs to really seal the deal in these final 100 seconds?
Yeah, they're going to need some of that difference maker. I would like to see, you know, maybe a few more of those set passes, but again, they just get interrupted downfield. So if the Hilltoppers want to break out, they can't play in the air. Maybe look for some of these really precise passing plays or pinches like that just aren't very expected, but the power not there. And I think that Trizen was looking for a bump off the wall, but couldn't quite find it. And maybe that's the difference they need. Get someone in the back line. Have that forward pressure come into the Highlanders' defense. Otherwise, they're just going to keep on transitioning forward off these big booming clears.
Left here in Game 3 of Grand Finals. Time absolutely running out for the Hilltoppers. They are starting to stare a defeat in the face, but as we enter these final 60 seconds, and Trizen has finally put those wheels back in the round, put a goal away in favor of the Hilltoppers. Can they carry it further, Turbo? Can they take us to that Grand Final?
It's certainly possible. Maybe if going to 7 is certainly possible, but right there you saw that goal was just the product of Ian missing the timing on the corner. Boom, he was looking to set up another play, and fortunately for the Hilltoppers, Trizen was there, and of course, positioning was key. But you have to remember, this wasn't some great structured play that came out of the Hilltoppers. It was reactive, which is good, taking advantage of your enemy's mistake, but they still need to be proactive if they want to win this series.
I could not agree more. I mean, we're looking at a team like Lake Wales. If you're sitting around just waiting to score after mistakes they make, well, you're going to be waiting for a long time. You need to be in there. You need to be able to find demos. You need to be able to, that would have been the coolest play all weekend. But that one is still pretty cool. Dark Risky with the immediate follow-up, and now 27 seconds left on the clock. A tie game, unbelievably possible.
Yeah, and right here, we're seeing all of those elements come into play. You're seeing everyone step forward. You're seeing Rudgy in the net, bumping these defenders, and of course, on top of it, some extra solo play coming in. So they're finding these adjustments, they're making these changes, and now with 30 seconds left, this is certainly possible. Trizen needed that 50, but Dr. Kai, Durkee finds one more, but Trizen finds it, looks for the shot, can't quite get it, and the transition isn't there, but still a much better showing in this Game 3 out of the Hilltoppers.
This Game 3, a 3-2, a scoreline that the Hilltoppers are unfortunately familiar with against a team like Lake Wales, and now as we enter the final 5 seconds of the match, the only job of Lake Wales, just let that ball touch the ground, get it up, hit it down. A huge interruption from Durkee, bounces up and off the wall, and it looks like they're going to probably just tap that bad boy in. Here comes Rudgy. Once again, they need that tie. They do not want this game lost on their final report, and Dark Risky keeps it alive. The slow dribble, when it's up and over, it is going to be caught out. It's got to touch the ground at one point or another, and there it is. That will be a second game win for Lake Wales, with the Hilltoppers, keeping it close.
Yeah, Hilltoppers keeping it close, and it really did come off the back of sort of the confidence boost, the wind back in their sails from that goal. While it was off of Ian's mistake, they capitalized. They found the option, and then they were able to bring everyone in. They sent Rudgy to that back line. They put Trizen on mechanical masterpiece mode, and indeed, he delivered to help put that play together.
Yeah, how about the resilience of Summit? We thought they were out of it, but 2 goals in the last minute, almost making it a 1-point game. How important is it for the Hilltoppers to win this game so they don't get stuck in a 3-0 hole?
I think it's very important. Yeah. Because if you run into, obviously it would be a 3-1 scoreline, there's still potential, but more important than that, when you get to 2-2, you're back into what's effectively a best of 3. You're in this really tight sort of corridor where no one really has an advantage. And again, it's that reset. And if anything, you have the advantage being that team that struck last, where if you go to 2-2, you're building that momentum, you're continuing that stride. As it seemed like if we had this as a set of scales where the Hilltoppers are on one side initially, boom, they're completely crushing it. And then the Highlanders push back. They pull out their swords, those claymores, and are trying to cut them down. But instead, the Hilltoppers are clawing back, climbing up those mountains, and they're looking to take down another monster.
And it is showtime here in Game 4. They are looking to slay this final beast. And it is going to be difficult. The Hilltoppers, they are down a game, and they are just rootin', tootin', and are ready for shooting here in Game 4. Let's see what they're going to be able to make happen. Trizen going in quick, huge ball control off the far right corner, but Extreme John bounces it back up and over. A huge opportunity here, momentum in favor of the Hilltoppers. They lose ball control. Rudgy goes a little too deep for that demo.
Yeah, a little bit too deep, and again, it worked for that last goal, but the thing is, it was off of a coordinated play. You can't just get out of position every time, and this is what's going to happen. The Highlanders are going to see that. They're going to take advantage, as it's just a simple pass up, cross over, and of course the knock-in from Ian.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of coordinated plays, right? There's a masterclass example of one of them. Such a strong showing from Lake Wales so far. This is the #1 seed. This is the team to beat, and the Hilltoppers are learning that the hard way. This team, I mean, near flawless very often. Durkee almost with an immediate turnaround goal. Rudgy going to be able to block it out, and that's actually huge because Lake Wales, a lot of their play style depends on finding those 2 goals back-to-back. It's the speed they use against you, and I think we need to see a lot more boost control a huge creation of a boost drop from the Hilltoppers could really change the pace of the game and create a new pivotal moment for us.
Yeah, and it's all going to start here with this kickoff. If the Hilltoppers can push this into blue territory, well, they might hand off control. If they can find those mid boosts, get a little control, get a little physical, it's right here. Dark Risky has full boost, can't quite find the double, but tries it, keeps it dangerous, and forces a lot to be used just for this clear. As Durkee not going to have much for this attack, although it nearly finds its way into the net. And now a demo, but actually off the corner, looking for that perfect angle, and instead tries and shoots it away. And Rudgy right down to the midfield. Dark Risky keeping this ball live for the Hilltoppers.
That was a little bit rough there. Ian wanted to walk it in, wanted to eliminate human error, but in the process created a new human error of his own, bouncing it up and off the post, into the corner and out of the goal. It's not like it's going to really hurt Lake Wales, at least not yet, but that third goal definitely would have made them feel a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's now a light tap down, and again, this is the same sort of style we saw in game 1, where you see a player pass down, give it off to that second man and let them carry the ball forward. And now Rudgy playing that aggressive third, stepping forward, getting ready to respond to his team. And again, tries in right place, right time, and no one ready to respond to this backboard touch from the Highlanders.
A minute 20 already off the clock, but 3:20 still remaining. The Highlanders are up by 2, but the Hilltoppers, they're ready to topple this game and at least tie things up in that 2-2 fashion. We saw them score twice in 60 seconds back in game 3. If they can do that again here in game 4, they can tie the series, give us a technical reset. I always love to call it a complicated 0-0 after all, and that could really help them go the distance. But before they get 2, gotta at least put 1 down.
And they nearly did just there. Extreme with a great save, but feels like out of left field, honestly. As now tries in an awkward spot, loses that first contest, and now the net is empty, but a big demo from Rudgy on the rotate back.
Yeah, the net was completely empty. There was one player who was going to be able to find the goal off the back, and they were demolitioned by Rudgy. Ooh, good thing there was a player there. That would have been an own goal, a very unfortunate circumstance. And as we kiss the first half of game 4 goodbye, it is time to enter the second half of game 4, and this is where that second half buff for the Hilltoppers needs to come into play. We need the buff, we need the Lanimals, we need the boost drought. Something needs to change for the Hilltoppers, or this is going to become a rough series against them.
Yeah, that we do, as tries in with a beautiful contest, and they're starting to read the lines that the Highlanders like to use on these offensive approaches. So, as that adjustment gets made, as they realize the sort of spaces that these Highlanders like to occupy, it becomes that much better. But again, as we mentioned in the pre-show, these Highlanders can take any point on the field and just race right to it. So if you cut off one line, they'll just find 5 more.
We need 150 now on the clock, more than enough time. That's what, I don't know, a lot of math, a lot of time per goal here from the Hilltoppers. We're going to be entering those 100-second marker. That'll be 50 seconds per goal. But now it's about 33 seconds a goal. That time cut away as the third goal is scored by Ian Cito.
Yeah, third goal scored, and again, we keep saying his name. He is just sort of that finisher for this team, and quite honestly, this was what felt to be a must-win for the Hilltoppers. Now, of course, there is space. There is still time in this game to bring it back, but what we need to see is players like Trizen go for something a little more mechanical. It doesn't matter if you're going to hit it perfectly, but what matters is that the Highlanders have to respect it. And sometimes that pressure, sometimes that fear can get a team to start to crack and bring out some of the chinks in this team's armor.
Dark Risky has the ball control after a great demolition, but wowza, is it just interrupted straight away. Rudgy now down to plan B, just trying to get the ball into the back third of Lake Wales. The pressure coming in and off, down onto corner. It is just a traffic jam there in center field. The double tap attempt, can it be a tertiary attempt? What about the quadruple? Let's see it into the goal. A double tap again. No, okay, Extreme John instead is going to be able to knock that ball clean away. 60 seconds here, Turbo, and I cannot agree more how important this game is for the Hilltoppers.
It is so crucial because otherwise you are looking at a reverse sweep effectively, because you're looking at it becoming a best of 5 after game 2, and now you'd have to climb that mountain all over again. While yes, these goats are pretty good at doing it, looking at those 89-degree angles, but still, this is going to be a very difficult mountain to climb, as these Highlanders have just strangled them out of their own portion of the field, and now Ian looks for another highlight.
Ian trying to farm that highlight reel, but it's Durkee who sneaks in that 4th goal. We are looking rough here now as the Hilltoppers are unfortunately going to have to kiss another game goodbye. They're going to be down 3-1 on the series. And Turbo, let me tell you what, they just need to do one thing. They need to, during this break, they need to take off those headsets, they need to relax, they need to take a deep breath, and remember, this is what they've been training for. This is what they've been working towards. They cannot let the stage get to them. They cannot let Lake Wales get to them. If they play the way I know they're capable, we're going all the way to that game 7.
certainly possible. They would need to string together some serious momentum, and boy, would I love to see it go all the way home. But right here, at least one goal, it'll be that sort of rejuvenating moment, bring back some energy. Like we saw in game 1 and 2, that last second goal allowed the Highlanders to get their momentum, get their confidence, and instead it's going to touch the ground. Highlanders continue their streak of dominance, only having lost one game this entire tournament.
And we watched that, and It looked great when it happened, but now after them winning 3 games in a row, back to back to back, I mean, they're all warmed up. This is the Lake Wales we know and love. This is the team that has dominated every single opponent. This is the team that was 15-0ing people. This is just Lake Wales.
All right, you guys both called a game 6 and a game 7. You think we're going to get it?
I think it's possible, for sure. But, you know, in my head, I was sort of bouncing between, you know, is this going to be in 5? Is this going to be in 6? Because I felt that the Hilltoppers, they could have kept it tight early, but as, again, we've seen Lake Wales just able to adjust on the fly, able to adjust mid-game. They had a completely different play style from games 1 to 2, and then they sort of kept that same style in 2 and 3, and in 4, they're, again, looking for more of those individual plays, and if they put out another tempo shift, I don't know if the Hilltoppers will be ready.
That's what Lake Wales prides themselves on. When I got the opportunity to interview them, that's what Ian was saying. He's like, we know we adapt the fastest. We know we can change our game plan the quickest, and I think that's exactly what's happening. They're moving a little bit faster mentally, a little bit faster physically, and if the Hilltoppers can pull out the play we saw back in game 1, I think that's the cleanest we've seen them all weekend. If they can give us that again, I wholeheartedly believe we are going to go all the way to that game 7, but now this is where the game conditions have been set. These 5 minutes could very well be the Hilltoppers' last. Their backs against the wall, their swan song ready to be sung. They need to make something happen right here, right now.
Yeah, this is their final moment, and we're actually seeing a car swap out of Dark Risky, swapping over to the Fennec. Same car body hitbox as the Octane, but still a little different feel. Some players feel a little bit better on that, and we're already seeing some of those results. A good amount of speed, and they're starting to cut off the Highlanders in their slower play. And this is what we saw in game 1. They were cutting off passes. They were denying the midfield as really a playable zone. And if they can do the same for the corners in this game, it'll make life so much harder. But John with the setup and a great save.
I mean, what a phenomenal setup there from Lake Wales. Albeit a little bit predictable as we saw the Hilltoppers were ready for it. But I mean, such a clean performance in opening play. Rudgy, I believe, also switched vehicles. I'm not positive on that, but yeah, that definitely looks like a new one. So coming in, we see a great shot from Durkee. Rudgy able to block it out a little bit blockier here. And now a minute off the clock, 20% of what could be the Hilltoppers' final game gone. They need to put something on the board.
That they do, and now with actually a breakaway opportunity, there was nearly a demo. Honestly, I think that there was the speed present, but not sure if the boost was there. As now, 125, or 115 here and gone. The Hilltoppers looking a lot stronger, finding these avenues, but still needing to cut the distance, needing to score first. They want a shot at bringing this one back.
Keeping a team like Lake Wales at a 0-0 is great. Don't get me wrong, that's a very hard thing to do, but a 0-0 is never going to win you the series. The defense is great, but we need the strong offense. And now, as a little bit of their defense has been chipped away, Dark Risky sent back to respawn in just a couple of seconds. This is where Lake Wales gets to take ball control back. Dark Risky, the man of the hour, the spawn, coming in quick and trying to find ball control, but it is just a sloppy fight in the midfield. It looks like somehow Lake Wales is finding themselves on top.
Yeah, Lake Wales finding themselves on top, taking advantage of Risky being low on boost. I don't think he picked up a full canister, just relied on that 33 you get when you spawn. As Durkee almost finds the double and a big bump to clear things away. And that's what's great about this team. They transition their attacks into opening space for their teammates.
I mean, yeah, just such a good opening, right? It wasn't an all score, it was an all score. But if I don't, I know somebody's going to be there to back me up. And that's the scary thing about these teams is they are not going for individual plays. They know their teammates have their back. We talked about that yesterday. They trust their teammates. And I think we are seeing that perfectly through Lake Wales right now.
Yeah, and right here, Risky thought he had a little bit of space, but Durkee cuts it off immediately. And that's what's made this team just so strong as tries in. Decent position, maybe trying to play for a cross, but now Ian with a lot of space. They gave him the midfield, and he's going to work with it as the flip, as the reset, nearly gets it, but the crossbar too strong.
That would have been the clip of the series, I think, but unfortunately the crossbar, that coveted fourth player, comes in clutch. We are getting ready, folks. We have now entered the second half of what could be the final game of this grand final. The Highlanders are looking to take it in a 4-1 fashion. The Hilltoppers, they are officially in a now or never moment, and as Ian scores, that never seems just a little bit more likely.
Yeah, that it does. Yeah, 78 miles an hour on this shot. It's no wonder why the defender couldn't make it. Honestly, being that close, it's very, very impressive, as that's just one of the strongest shots you will see in competitive Rocket League. It is incredibly tough to get that speed. That redirect is now down 2-0. We know that the Hilltoppers can play from here, but the Highlanders seem like they just turn into, again, those Lanimals once they get that lead, once they can play with that confidence. Boy, are they.
They certainly are, Turbo, and now 2 minutes remain. We are looking at 122 seconds. More than enough time for this team to make it happen, but they've got to make something happen. They have been far too quiet for my liking, and his Extreme John finds a demolition that passes ball control back into Lake Wales, or at least back into the center field where nobody truly owns it yet. Here comes Streisand with a miss on the ball. It is down on the field. Durkee right there to pick it up. Is that a goal? Nope, a little far off to the side.
Nearly, but the thing is, what's great to see is that this is very similar to the playstyle we actually saw out of Lake Wales in Game 1. They're playing in the midfield. They're a little bit tighter. But now the Hilltoppers are still trying to play against Game 3, Game 4 Lake Wales, where they're sitting in the air. They're looking for these off-wall contests, and instead, what does Lake Wales do? They recognize that, they drop the ball down, and now they're finding more and more scoring opportunities.
It's the speed of adaptation. It absolutely is. Lake Wales, they can just put on a brand new hat and be a whole new team. It's taking the Hilltoppers a little bit too long to analyze these team strats, and by the time they can start playing, we've got 70 seconds left on the clock. This is not going to work out well. We need nothing short of divine intervention right now. Dark Risky off the post. That goal could have been the pivotal moment to keep the team alive, but unfortunately, that close, only going to count in horse hands and grenade shoes.
As we saw Risky nearly becoming that sharpshooter once again, but just off the post, and that's the trouble sometimes. When you're dealing with teams as good as Lake Wales, you want to put that ball as far away from their last man as possible, and sometimes it crosses a little too far and winds up on the post.
39 seconds. We are looking at 1 goal per 19-ish seconds, give or take. In Lake Wales, they are mere seconds. They are hypothetically seconds away from being your grand final champions. And as Durkee puts a 3rd goal down, it feels all the more likely. 30 seconds left. 1 goal per 10 seconds from the Hilltoppers, or it is all over right here, right now.
Yeah, this is really, you need nothing short of a miracle, and you can see in the player cams from, at the very least, Lake Wales, excitement, jubilance, every other word you've got in your thesaurus for how these players must be feeling. They show up in their inaugural season, win their conference, and now get a rematch of the team that took them to 5 before, and in this time, they're gonna do it in 5, but it's a best of 7, so with 1 less loss and 1 more win.
Not quite the same energy as the last best of 5 they were taken to. We are officially entering the final 10 seconds, folks, and I have the honor of letting you know that Lake Wales High School, coming in at #1 seed, they follow through and true, and they are your grand finalist champions here this weekend. Lake Wales High School walking away with the win.
And it's just incredible. You can see the families jumping, cheering, and that's, I think, the best part of it. You see the family support, you see these players just knowing, well, yes, you see those dejected faces on the side of the Hilltoppers. They played an incredible series. They came out here as one of the teams. I don't think anyone expected them to beat the Wildcats, and they showed up, they showed out, and they played an incredible game.
Oh, yeah, Summit High School, a lot to be proud of here, putting up that type of fight. How nice was it to see the families? A short 50-minute drive from Lake Wales compared to all the other teams flying around here. And now it'll feel like a parade driving south back home. Let's go over this Game 4 before we touch on the entire series as a whole. You guys mentioned it. Summit playing great defense, but that's just not enough. You need to put up some offense against a high-scoring, flying team like Lake Wales.
Without a doubt. And that's something that I often say because we see teams with a super solid defense. They can keep the score line at 0-0, but nobody's ever going to win at 0-0. You need to have at least that one person, at least that one opportunity to put that 1 point down. That 1 point can be all you need. But teams, and they were really stuck backs against the wall. Being stuck in a defense cannot win you the game. You need an equivalent offense.
Yeah, and it really did just come down to adaptation, adaptation, adaptation. I sound like a broken record, but it's because I saw a different Lake Wales High play style almost every single game. And the fact is, most teams have a singular play style. They'll have their top player. They'll have that one guy that they really rely on, or maybe this setup, this set piece, or maybe people in distinct roles. Like we saw in the Wildcats. You saw DPK be that disruptor. You saw Sean be that setup man, and Apostrophe at times that finisher. With Sean and Apostrophe able to swap back and forth. But instead on Lake Wales, it was sometimes Ian going for the flashy plays. It was sometimes Durkee just slowing the ball down, and they all communicated together, you know, whether it was pass in the midfield, go for the bump, whether it was we need to play high because they're challenging us low, or it's let's drop the ball back down because they're starting to come off the walls and contest the airspace. all of these changes happened mid-game, and even some professional teams can't even do that.
Yeah, when you say, I mean, each game looks different from their last game, that's impressive. How do you even get to that level where you can adapt so quickly?
That goes all the way back to team trust. Knowing your teammates, knowing that you have the proper synergy and chemistry with them, that you do not have to be the one filling those shoes all the time. You're willing to, I don't want to say trade the shoes, that sounds a little weird, but you're willing to put on these different shoes and fill these different spots because you have that trust. You have that faith that no matter what your team is doing, that you're going to do it right.
And it also just comes down to, these players, they have thousands of hours in game. They have so much practice time. And it's not just, slamming their head into solo queue matches or maybe queuing up with their teammates. It is looking at very explicit scenarios and repping them over and over and over again. If you think in baseball, there's like a pitching machine where you can see what a 90-mile-an-hour fastball looks like, what a curveball looks like, all of those elements. There's the exact same thing in Rocket League. There are these training packs that give you scenarios, whether it's shots, defenses, passing, all of those elements. They practice them day in, day out, and it's what makes champions.
And the practice made the champion today. Lake Wales beating Summit 4-1 in the grand final. We are going to the trophy ceremony after this break. Welcome back to the 2022 EGF High School Rocket League National Championship at the ESPN Wide World of Sports. We have just crowned a champion here in Walt Disney World, Florida. The top seed Lake Wales Highlanders entered the tournament as number 1, and they leave the tournament as number 1. We're going to toss it down to Door on the floor. He is standing by with the winners and the trophy.
Thank you very much, Gracie. It has been a long and arduous journey for a lot of these teams this weekend, but one above and by far all has had the easiest time, has shown us pure dominance. It is my pleasure to present to you your 2022 EGF High School National Championship winners. It's Lake Wales High School! Now come in, guys. I got to ask you guys a couple of questions. You guys have been up on that stage more than anybody else this weekend. You guys look cool, calm, and collected. And the longer it went, the more comfortable you seemed up there with the Intel Alienware PCs. It just got nicer and nicer. The energy got better and better. What was it like up there for finals? Did it feel like home, or was it a little bit more uncomfortable with all the pressure?
We felt like home. We already played so many matches up there. We already been used to it, and our energy was very high, and we already decided to play the game.
I'm sure the energy helped. You guys have a little fan club over there in the corner. How important was that to you guys picking up the win today?
It was, let's say, not important to me, but also to the school. Thanks for Mr. Owen over here, because and in later years, more people are going to come to eSport, and hopefully EGF will grow as well.
Hey, that's the hope. Get more teams in here so you have more teams to beat. Isn't that right? All right, one more question for you. You guys are by far and above not just the best team here, but also the closest team to here, just an hour away. Being the home team, how much sweeter does it feel to win down here in Orlando?
It feels amazing because it helps represent our school at Florida, just to come here and just play whatever we are born to play with all the hours that we've been playing together. It shows off.
Now, it's an amazing journey for each of the four of you. Now, what was it like coming along with them for this whole thing? It must be like watching your kids, just like you have no input on this, but you also are sitting there cheering for them. How stressful is that?
It wasn't too stressful because I think it's very easy being a coach when you have players this amazing. I mean, they just dominated every match. They were always practicing. They made my job way easier. I had very little input.
All right, you guys earned it. I'll give you one last soapbox to stand on. Shout out your parents, your teachers, whoever came here to support you.
Shout out to my mom and dad and all my friends that came here over there and the school for letting us get this for the school. Just entire the school.
Hey, big thanks to Intel and Alienware for giving us this awesome technology. I appreciate it. And thank you to my mom, my dad, and my brother, and my cat, yes.
Of course, can't miss out. 4 legs, twice as much power.
Same as my brother. Thank you for every family member that came here and people online. A lot of people from our family members watched at home, and amazing. And also our newest principal that came here, Mr. Saran, watched us support us as well.
That's so amazing to see high school esports supported from the top down. You guys are the pinnacle of it this year. Hopefully we get to see you back next year. But as for now, enjoy it. Go get yourselves dinner. Enjoy every last second of it because it's sweet. We're going to send things back up to the desk to break it all down. But thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Lots of applause down there on the floor. Love seeing, how convenient is it? A local school taking home the trophy. And hey, those kids are ready for their sponsorships. They squeezed in Intel, Alienware. They thanked all the right people. And the principal, they know what they're doing. Let's get to our Intel Core moments, plural, of the match. And we saw game 2 is when the script was flipped with 3 quick goals before halftime.
Yeah, in the game, it's multiple moments, but in the grand scheme, it is this one big moment. They just lost game 1. Things were looking super rough, and then all of a sudden, Lake Wales comes in, drops 1. We were like, oh my gosh, drops 2 and 3, and that is when they really sealed the deal as early as game 2. They lose 1, and they decided that is never happening to us again.
And the thing is, each of these moments, they weren't, single events. They were full team plays. It was the team getting involved. That first one, waterfall pass down, just completely taking the defense by surprise because you can get a very precise angle and get a very precise pass, and they found exactly that. That third goal, finding the stuff forward so that they could just pressure on in and Ian with the follow-up. It's, again, just this team play. And, when you've got 2 of the teammates living in the same house, practicing, growing up together, there's that extra level of synergy, that extra level of trust, and it certainly showed out on the pitch.
That's a good point. And you know what I liked? They mentioned in their post-match interview about how this grows esports as a whole, right? Bigger picture. And we've been talking about that all weekend long, about how a national platform like this, as we see Lake Wales taking pictures with their championship trophy, and of course the Mickey Mouse magician hat. Don't let that go anywhere. That's clearly the good luck charm, as if their skill wasn't already enough. But now that we've concluded this tournament, what impact has this had on esports and at the high school level and beyond?
It just goes to show, this talent is everywhere because in almost every single esport at the major level, there are those breakout prodigies. And of course, depending on the game, they might be allowed to compete as early as 15 or even 12 when it comes to games like Fortnite and other major titles. But a lot are, trying to create this more cohesive ecosystem, make it so that you can't just pluck a player right out of high school when they're not developed, when they don't have that time to really, learn and grow. And right here, you can see a great team materializing. If you showed me their gameplay on their own, I would have said, I'm looking at a top 20 team in the East for collegiate. I would have looked at them and said that level of talent is where they are. And the fact of the matter is, they're already there. I'm sure that colleges are watching and looking to bring them on. And it just goes to show that it's not just, those standout 2 or 3 superstars who go straight to pro. It is this whole support system that there's young players who are able to find that team environment, get picked up, learn all of these elements before getting thrust into those major stages.
And I think this really goes a long way for esports as a whole, because realistically, traditional sports is not going to entertain everybody. It's not going to be for everybody, and we can't all play those either. I used to be a traditional athlete. We found out I have a disease that I can no longer play traditional sports. I still wanted to be in that competitive nature. I still wanted to be in an area where I could be welcomed and have that confident aggression and really get to play and have a team and all of that support. And esports was the #1 way for me to do that. And I hope that this event shows that to other people as well, that this is weirdly similar to traditional sports when you really break it down, and it can offer a lot of the same things: scholarships, that team mentality, that bonding, that growth, the connections and representations of schools and sponsors. It's just got so much to offer that I hope this opened the eyes of a lot of people.
That's a great perspective to bring up, because not everyone can participate in traditional sports. And I was talking with Tyler Schroet on our pregame show today that there may be a misunderstanding from people who aren't involved in the esports community.
Absolutely.
But you go into these streams, you talk to these players, it really is a community. There's a lot to be proud of in there. And you're learning life skills that you can learn in traditional sports too, like the communication and the teamwork, the resilience. So it's been great to watch all 16 teams that came out here today. And you know what? Summit, even though they come out as the runner-up, if I'm not mistaken, they sent 2 teams to this tournament last year, so they're clearly a powerhouse. And I wonder, Lake Wales, I'd love to see what they turn into as well.
Yeah, actually, Lake Wales, they actually brought 2 teams to this event, actually the top and bottom seed here. And I was going to say, watch out for the Bagpipers next season, because the Highlanders are the top team, the Bagpipers starting to train up, and when you've got players like Ian, Extreme, and of course, Durkee, you really do have this great ecosystem to build off of. You can, ask some of the best players around, how should I approach this position? How should I change this up? And it's amazing to see that there is that iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, without a doubt. I do want to take a moment to say my hat off to the Hilltoppers. I mean, they came out, my invisible cowboy hat off to them, but they came out and just played their absolute hearts out. I mentioned it a few times. That's the team out of all the teams here that I've known the longest. I have seen them many, many times. And to see, they were good when I saw them, but to see them come out and do that is just a breathtaking opportunity. And it's obviously going to hurt. It's going to sting to not be that first place, but I really hope they are proud, because it was insane out there.
Do we know the years of the Highlanders? Is this team coming back next year?
I honestly do not know.
I don't believe that they're seniors, so I think that we've got at least one more season of seeing these absolute powerhouses come together. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if you've got Kochi from Northwood, who is the #1 ranked team in Collegiate Rocket League, knocking on their doors, taking a trip down to Lake Wales and being like, hey, I want to see these guys. I want to bring them up, make them our next developmental team.
Yeah, and I wonder, because we were talking about in our pregame show how there are no amateurs in esports. Is a tournament like this, when you see how dominant they were, does that open up the possibility of maybe sponsorships or
undoubtedly so
outside
I
tournaments?
think I mentioned it yesterday. I know a 14-year-old with a full ride scholarship to a college right now because he's good at Rocket League. Like it's amazing that the word amateur definitely implies a lack of skill or knowledge, when in reality in the world of esports it means a little bit more newer to the scene, less experienced, less seasoned. So is there an amateur situation? Sure, but it doesn't define the skill itself. It just defines the exposure to the world of esports. And I think these kids are a great example. A first experience for a lot of them. And that was honestly some of the best Rocket League play I've seen in years.
Yeah, I think it's sort of thinking of amateur not being that they're worse at the game or anything like that. It's that they're just an uncut diamond that needs to be honed and turned into that professional player that they can truly become. And we saw just the potential for this team because they're already playing at a collegiate level. Just imagine what happens when they're given a little bit more time, a little bit more practice, and a little bit more coaching.
Okay, I love that phrase, uncut diamond. So let's take it a little bit further. I don't want to pick apart the championship team, but what does it take to turn them into that nice sparkly diamond? What else do they have to improve on?
Dedication is the #1 thing. And this is very difficult. They spend hundreds upon hundreds of hours playing a video game. And that's hard for a lot of reasons. It has to maintain your interest for that long. You really have to care about it. You have to find a proper team. Like the synergy in those three is amazing, top tier synergy. And it really requires a lot of mental focus. It gets really hard at times when you start going on a losing streak. You're going to want to quit the game. You're going to want to retire. But it's just keeping that positive mental attitude, that PMA. There's always the next game. If I keep working, it's going to pay off. And I think they proved to us hard work absolutely pays off.
Yeah, and the trouble is that once you reach that level where you're doing more things than 99.8% of the player base can do, there's not many more moments that you can create. There's not many more mechanics you can learn. All that's left is making it absolutely perfect every single time. And again, it comes down to that dedication. It comes down to having that interest, wanting to take it to that furthest level, and eventually reaching those highest peaks.
All right. Well, that wraps our tournament. Any final thoughts, guys?
I'm just happy to be here. This is a super fun
Was that
experience.
a happy tear?
I got the happy sad tear a little bit. I'm crying that it's over, but I feel so blessed that I got the chance to be here. This was an awesome event, an awesome weekend, and I hope everybody else kept as close an eye on those teams as we did, because there are some real star players in there.
Yeah, exactly. And for all of the teams that came through our bracket, even if you didn't make it all the way to the championship, you still showed how strong of a player you can be. You still showed that you know how to work inside a team. And the fact that those elements are present, scouts are watching. And honestly, the fact that we were finally able to show off what these players can do at the largest stage, put them at a LAN, give them that space to be the real athletes they are, it's incredible, and I just look forward to seeing more of it.
It's been a great experience all around for the students, for their families, for the fans watching online. I feel like we all learned so much. We were all entertained, and you really can't ask for more than that, right? If it's a sad, happy tear, don't cry because it's over. Cry because it happened. Great. GG's all around, guys.
GG's all around.
Fist pumps. All right. Well, for Septilence, J Turbo, Door on the floor, I'm Grace Remington. Thank you, everyone, for watching our coverage of the 2022 EGF High School Rocket League Championship. And thank you to all 16 teams for coming out to Walt Disney World, Florida, and participating. Congratulations to the top seed, the Lake Wales Highlanders, on your win. And have a good night, everyone.